things are gonna go. I mean,
Oh, it's true.
I don't think it's
If you're
yeah.
waiting to like see the first like couple games,
Well, you can't really see the first couple games. You can literally only see half of the first game,
right?
right?
No, I meant like the first games for 6 different players or whatever. Like
Yeah,
you're waiting to see how like MVL's first game goes and how like Andraken's first game goes. If they're paired in the first round, it would be really useful information.
So it looks like we're just about to get started.
Yeah.
We did get a question from Bobby79 asking about what a battle royale is.
Yeah.
So
Good
battle
question.
royale is a really exciting edition of week basically format of the Pro Chess League. So instead of our regular matches, we have a round robin between all the board ones and all the board twos and threes and fours. And I think it's really exciting because we're both trying to get as many points as possible. And we're also trying to get as many points as possible for our team.
Yeah. The other
And
team that
there's more points at stake in battle royale than there is in a regular match, right? So like you can really shake up the standings. Like you can get a big boost, or you could get dragged down, right,
That's
David?
right. I mean, if you scored, let's say, 19 points out of
Hmm.
28, that's a pretty good score. I mean, you could potentially win with 18, 18 and a half. But let's say you score 19 and you get the 24 first place bonus points. That's 43 points. Whereas in a normal match, you would expect to get 20. So the teams in like first and second in a battle royale can really leapfrog somebody.
Yeah, and that's really important for a lot of teams, as we see that the Armenia Eagles are pretty comfortable, as are the New York Marshals, in the standings right now.
Yeah,
But a lot of the teams could really use that boost, including like the Marseille Migraines, the Volga
exactly.
Stormbringers, where the Stormbringers, where they've got incredible lineups, but right now they're not in playoff position.
Yeah,
But just today could change that all. If one
yeah,
of these were to get the 24 points that you refer to, plus of course needing about 18 to 19 points, that seems like about the magic number. They could leapfrog up to like number two pretty easily, right, David?
yeah. The Stormbringers and Migraines, very good examples. Both not in the playoff picture. Both won good matches last week, but it didn't actually change the standings. Like just like they nudged their way a little bit closer. But this could really turn their season around if they finished at the top today. The other team that's a really big question today is Barcelona Raptors. They've brought in like two players who are new in Vallejo Pons and Ponomarev. So they brought in two new like massive big guns out of nowhere. Their previous lineups this season were usually like 25, 25, 24, 24, like super balanced lineups. And now suddenly they're playing like two 2,700 players. So it's a totally different look for the Raptors, and they're playing like three players who've never played before this season.
Yeah, that's extremely exciting. I was enthusiastic about that when I found out. I mean, obviously tonight's battle royale is going to be really exciting as well
Mm-hmm.
because you've got all of like the top dogs, Fabi and Naka. But
Right.
I was really excited to see some new blood coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Barcelona Raptors absolutely they could get themselves into a more comfortable position. And another team which I really feel like there's a lot at stake for today is the Sopranos. They've
Mm-hmm.
got 96 points, so they're a distant fourth right now in the Atlantic Division, but that's a very competitive division with the Montreal Chess Pros certainly wanting to leapfrog them.
Yeah.
I feel like they're going to want to have a good result and be a little bit more comfortable in the Atlantic Division.
I think they lost somewhat badly to the Archbishops last week. And so
Yes, I saw that.
so if we're talking about teams that are trying to leapfrog into the playoffs, then the Sopranos in fourth place after a loss are one of those teams that would be like teetering and would be like, hey, like we don't want people to just start leapfrogging us.
Yes, yes, they're gonna want to. They're people are gonna be out to get them. I would say I agree because it does seem like somebody like the Chess Bras needs to do really well in their battle royale,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's kind of gonna be like Sopranos versus Chess Bras. I think for that fourth spot potentially. It looks like that's the way it's shaping up,
Okay.
and that's a really coveted spot for sure because
Yeah.
it's obviously the a very tough division.
And with this unknown Raptors team, I considered both of their players for my fantasy team, both of their new their new top guns, Vallejo, Pons, and Ponomarev. But there wasn't like a track record, right? Like with some of these guys, you got a track record. Vache Lagrave plays like every single match. You've got a very clear idea, not just that he's a 2780 rated player, but that he's performed at a certain level match after match. With these guys, I went back in time and I found a couple matches Ponomarev played 2 years ago for the Dublin Desperados in the first season of the Pro Chess League, and he had a fantastic play, fantastic performance. So I really considered him as a potential fantasy pick, and I consider the Raptors to be a team that could do really well today. I just wasn't sure about their fourth board, who's like a 16-year-old rated 2080 who almost never plays or recently just doesn't have much FIDE history.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited for sure to see that. And I want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat. Greg Shahadi, the commissioner, says that we're going to start in just a few minutes. Lady Macbeth gives me a shout out saying that I'm working overtime with a PCL today and the Champions Showdown tomorrow. And she calls me a commentating queen. Well, thank you, Lady Macbeth. Of course,
Nice.
We've got so many incredible commentators here. As I'm really excited to host this show.
Do you ever get tired, Jen? Do you ever get tired if you have to like commentate back to back to back to back? Does it ever?
Oh yeah,
tire?
absolutely. Yeah. I know you're going back to back today.
I'm doing two. Yeah.
So, yeah, I do get tired, but I feel like when it's something new and exciting like this, it makes it a lot easier. So it's like the fact that it was a battle royale made it even easier for me to say yes, even though I knew this was going to be a really busy week.
Okay.
With the Karen's Cup having just concluded and the Champion Showdown starting tomorrow, and I love the scheduling because we just had the opening dinner for the Champion Showdown last night, and of course Nakamura was there, Fabiano Caruana was there, Wesley So was there, and the competition doesn't start till Wednesday. But this is perfect because it means that tonight, of course, they're going to have a chance to play in the Pro Chess League in the Battle Royale.
Right.
So they kind of like moved around the opening dinner to make sure that they could play in it, which I think is really cool.
So Hikaru for sure has been playing his matches from all over this season. I've definitely noticed that, him playing from Gibraltar at 4 a.m. Now he's playing from the Champions Showdown. These guys, well, at least Hikaru for sure, but Wesley So, a couple of these guys seem to play very well no matter where they're playing from. Like, it doesn't seem to bother them at all to be traveling, to be playing in other tournaments during the day or the next morning. So
yeah, I am hearing we might have a small delay, so keep those questions coming. I see that Cash Menke asked me, does anyone know what a Karen is? Is that a question for us or is that a question for the chat? I think it's supposed to be a pile of rocks. This did come up in the broadcast.
It's like a question for dictionary.com or Google. But I guess he's asking people to really think it themselves, huh?
Well, Tissev actually got it right before I even said it on the screen. So beautiful. Yeah. Lady Macbeth says it's brilliant to see Topalov back in action. Indeed, he's going to be playing against Dominguez in the Champions Showdown.
The last time that we saw Topalov in action may have been a match against Kasparov, also in one of these St. Louis special matches.
Oh, right, like the Chess 960 thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, which was really fun.
Anytime there's 960, I'm watching.
Oh, are you? You're a big fan?
Oh, big fan. Big fan. I mean, Pro Chess League is good and all, but honestly, if we played 960 instead of chess, that's kind of what I'm waiting for.
Oh, really? I didn't know you were such a fan. I love it too. I think it's really exciting.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing to do chess 960 commentary, especially with Yasser.
Yeah, he was into it also, right?
Well, the other thing is Yasser is such a great strategist that he can kind of like really quickly understand how the pieces harmonize. And therefore 960 is like perfect for him because you see this kind of scattered configuration of chess pieces and he's like, well, the bishop needs to, go to like c2 and then the knight. It's just really like amazing how quickly he's able to see these configurations. I mean, obviously it's not always going to be the best one.
Right, not every time. There's going to be tactical details. You're not going to see everything instantly, but
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to MVL. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave is going to be playing today for the Migraines, as we mentioned earlier. Good
Yep.
fantasy pick. And
Yeah.
there will be an extension to click and follow him if you also want to see him streaming. Also, somebody was asking about Alexandra Botes in the chat, and she's going to be doing the evening stream along with Grandmaster Robert Hass. So,
Nice.
so much chess for you to follow today. So many different streams. I know you're
Yeah.
going to be streaming as well, David, tonight.
Yep.
And I also know that Hikaru Nakamura is going to be streaming. So
For
it's really
anybody for anybody who's more interested in the San Francisco mechanics than in like, Wesley So and Fabiano Caruana, I will be streaming tonight.
ooh, baby, we got it started.
We got liftoff. Yep.
Big one.
Yep.
Francisco Vallejo Pons is playing against Andraken with the white pieces as we get our battle royale underway.
Yeah, my follow command sure picked the right game to follow. It just popped this one up first out of all of them. And this is one we want to see. We want to see what kind of form Vallejo Pons will be in. I don't think he's ever played in the Pro Chess League before. And then Andraken, who is Jen's fantasy pick, one of the top 2 or 3 rated players in this battle royale today. So
yeah, I was kind of torn because I also was excited to see Francisco playing. I'm a fan. I like Vallejo. I always have. But because it's his first time, yeah, I went towards Andraken. We also have Panamaria entering the fray for the Barcelona Raptors. So just like a really tough lineup there bringing in tonight.
So far, it's Andraken showing the rust, right? I mean, just hesitating on this first move, like thinking in the tank on something which should just be automatic. So Vallejo Pons,
I don't know. D4 is kind of hard. Let's go to a game where we got some moves, David.
All right.
Want to take a look at
and as soon as you say you're going to go away on Draken moves to keep your attention. No, who do you want to see? Do you want to see MVL or Ponomariev?
Well, sure. Let's take a look at Ponomariev.
Okay.
And then we'll move over to MVL. As you mentioned earlier, he's also streaming.
So we've got the double Fianchetto sort of Catalan from white. And Ponomariev has a Fianchetto and an open diagonal for the C8 bishop. In my experience, it's hard to get an advantage for white out of this opening. As in, I've only played it 2 or 3 times and I didn't get any advantage.
And let's head over to MVL's game, as you mentioned, David.
Yeah, because that one, I was seeing they're playing some really fast stuff here. You already can't tell what opening it came from necessarily, but we were watching and we know it was a Rui Lopez. An old Rui Lopez. How do you like this position so far, Jen?
In the MVL Andresian game, God, it looks promising to me for white. How about you?
Yeah, I also like white. I suppose one thing black has is the bishop pair. To his credit, but somehow it seems like white's mobilization is a little bit faster or better. Despite the knight on a3, white's already got the rook on e1. Queen on d2. That just means the white rooks are getting into things a little bit faster. So there's like a threat of f3 already, probably winning something if it were white's move again, which it's not. But yeah, I think white's managing to get the rooks and queen into play so quickly is a good sign for white getting an advantage.
F3 is certainly a very annoying threat, David. I like, because even a move like rook e8 doesn't really help that much, right? You still play f3, and even though you're not winning a piece, it's like you don't really want to go into the line bishop f5, knight takes f5, and fracture your entire king position, right?
Yeah, you are right. That looks atrocious, and white could play rook e2 and rook ae1, and you're still like just struggling to survive on that thing. So we could expect a think here out of Zaven, right, as he tries to figure out how he wants to deal with f3.
I don't know what to do, David. I don't see a good move. I'm like, at first I was like, oh, this looks like white's doing well. And then I was like, wait a second, what does black do?
So now you think it's like more than well. Now you think it's more than well. Yeah, I guess so. People might have been wondering about f6, but then there was knight to e6 probably hurting black significantly. So that move was out. Then you've got the possibility of h6 sometimes to break the pin, but here white just takes it because of that queen being out. So this position is actually You might think it's all. So your instinct in evaluating this might be, let's look at the IQP, who controls the square in front of it and stuff. But here it's actually, there's some very concrete stuff around White's early lead in development with the rook and queen. So f3, and Andreassian plays f6, trying to fight back. Looks like it might cost him a pawn.
Yeah, just bishop takes f6, quickly played by MVL with the nice little Zwischenzug. And now, after pawn takes e4, we're going to be up a pawn. And on top of that, your king position is also weakened by losing that f7 pawn, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a pawn plus.
Well, White's also played f3 and fe4. So whose king position is more of a problem would probably depend on whose pieces end up being active, right?
Yeah, maybe I see what you're saying. I guess I was just thinking it was so easy to play like king h1, whereas you had black has an even harder
Black has
time
moved the
because
g pawn too.
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right on that. Every extra pawn you move, it gets a little bit worse for the king side. But honestly, given how bad Black's position was looking, this feels like one of those situations where a GM is happy to like shed a pawn and get all their pieces out and then try and just draw it through sheer grit. I mean, yeah, Zabin's got everything out right now. I almost wondered if after f6, MVL could have played fe4, pawn takes g5, and then pawn to e5. But maybe that e-pawn wouldn't have survived.
Let's move to another game. How about Loke Van Wheelie versus Sam Sevian?
Okay.
As we see the Mosquitoes face off against the Sopranos, as I mentioned earlier, such a key matchup for the Sopranos as they're looking to get a little bit more comfortable. Meanwhile, the Mosquitoes, very similar situation, David, as they're number 4 in the Central Division, but by the thinnest of margins, 1.5 points, basically nothing, right?
Basically nothing.
So they're certainly looking to get lots of points today as well.
Yeah. And Sevian has been playing these kind of Queen's Gambit positions several times in the PCL in past weeks. I've seen some of his games because he's done so well that one has to look at his games. And he won a game against Mamedyarov in this opening. So he looks pretty comfortable to me at this point. I think coming out of this opening as Black, he's attacking that c-pawn, also trying to organize his pieces.
Are you saying you actually like Black?
I think he's comfortable. I think he's okay.
Well, Sam Sevian, I think, is going to have a pretty exciting year, as I believe he might be one of the players for the World Team Championship. I'm not sure exactly what the lineups are, but that's going to be taking place soon in Astana in Kazakhstan.
Okay.
So definitely something to watch out for as well.
Yeah.
Let's check back in on Vallejo, because that game's actually gotten really exciting, David. That top dog matchup between Andraken and Vallejo Pons.
Right. Wow. So he's in check, but he's not just taking it. So he's considering moving his king and recapturing on f4 with the pawn. It's kind of a locked position where the black rook on a7 had to defend the b pawn. He'd much rather have that rook ready for his kingside attack, because it looks like Andraken really wants a kingside attack here.
And he did actually play knight takes h3, queen takes h3, quick rook f2, looking to defend against some ideas like, well, I mean, it's not like bishop takes g3 was really on tap, but...
No. It's almost more on tap now because the bishop on e1's blocked.
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand what rook... Oh, he just wants to play bishop f1. So that's why he played rook f2. Just less to defend laterally because it was already well defended, and more just to kick the queen out with bishop f1. That makes sense.
Yeah. I think, I mean, like, his dream move would be to play e4 at some point. And to ever play e4, he probably needs his bishop controlling that square. So maybe he's headed to g2, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, like, this kind of locked position is always a little bit hard to wrap your brain around, because, I mean, to me, e4 seems hard to organize. I guess for black, I'm thinking about what I can do. Can I get like G5 F4 in, or is that just going to be suicidal?
Yeah, he goes for bishop takes G3, Jen.
There we have. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Now if takes on G3, there's Queen G3. I can't play Rook G2 because the Queen takes E1.
Right. And
So
I
I
think
guess
I'd already figured out King F1 while we were talking about other things. So I think King F1, there's Queen H3 check, King G1, Queen G3 would repeat, and if Rook G2, then you can play Queen H1, Rook G1, Queen H3, and if the king comes up to F2, black will always have Knight E4 check. So
Oh God, that's a lot of analysis. You should take us through some of that. But
I'll
wait,
just show people what I'm thinking about. If white tries to avoid the perpetual, then Knight E4 and white gets bonked.
Exactly. That's a really nice line. Sweet.
So if white wants to avoid the draw, I think they basically have to go to H1. And that I haven't yet calculated. So
well, King H1, yeah. Now we're looking at things like Knight E4 and Rook F6.
Yeah.
It looks really, God. I think he's gonna maybe play King F1 and try to go for that perpetual.
I mean, he's got that rook on C2 sneakily defending him as well. So there is the potential to maybe go for this kind of a line.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
King F1. Okay. That line was risky. They've repeated once, and now pawns could roll the dice on H1. Or, I mean, by roll the dice, you know, he's 2,700. He can calculate it, make an informed decision.
Yeah, but it's not like there were other moves besides Knight E4 also, of course.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
But I somehow I feel like so yeah, King H1 versus King F1. Really big decision here. Do you go for the draw by perpetual, or do you calculate that King H1 is winning?
Yeah.
Big choice here. What would you guys do? As Annie Soptarek says, draw. And of course, I see people are guessing on the chess.com.
Easy to say it's a draw, but if we throw you guys into the booth, if we throw you into the seat, what would you guys go for?
Go for the win, says Helmerdorf. Go for the win. And Stevie says, why haven't New York and Moscow's game started yet? We'll keep you posted on that as soon as we get more information.
Yeah. Got the New York Marshals in chat checking about the games, so we'll see.
Yeah, New York Marshals also asking. It does look like we saw King F1 again and King G1, so maybe we should move to another game, as it looks this game is likely to get drawn. I don't see King H1 happening. There it is. I called it as the game has been drawn.
It may not be as exciting as seeing a live checkmate, but we've seen a live result. If we pop over to Frolyanov versus Ponomarev for a second, Frolyanov has sacrificed a pawn, and I'm curious what you think of this pawn sack, because it's not like an obvious attacking pawn sack.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a really nice bishop on A3. We've got the C5 square, which I think is huge. But is it enough for a whole pawn? Don't know about that. What about? But I guess we just have to look at it concretely. What's your plan after Knight C5?
Probably bishop to C8. I don't know. Sometimes I get overly passive when I'm up a pawn.
So instead, he plays a move H4. I actually like that better than Knight C5 because I think your bishop C8 move was a good reply. And then it's kind of like I can paint a picture of my knight on C5, but it's not doing anything.
Okay.
Because it has no targets.
Yeah.
This H4 move opens up the possibility of playing Knight G5, which could be more dangerous. Although even there, I'm struggling to figure out how to make use of, like, for instance, the A2 G8 diagonal.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess the overall problem for white is your pieces are already pretty active, right? Your minor pieces are in theory well placed, but the black structure right now has no point for you to attack it. So the idea of like H4, H5 is to try and create some kind of weakness or target, start to break up this black structure, which, as you say, the C6 pawn is killing our bishop. You know, the G6 pawn was killing our queen on C2 from attacking the king side. And once we've generated some kind of weakness somewhere, then we can know where to reposition our pieces. Otherwise, knight c5, knight e4, knight g5, we're just moving around in circles.
We do have a few more moves in the game, as after the move h4, bishop f5, queen b3, knight f6 played, as white is trying to kind of use the b3 square to potentially at some point play knight c5 and pressure the b7 pawn. Actually happened live. It's also possible that at some point in the future the queen will be of use on that diagonal. But
Yeah.
b6 quickly played, and
Yeah.
now what's the follow-up?
Well, this move is very awkward for white because now that knight is trapped.
So e4 is forced, basically.
Got to do something messy. Yep.
I was trying to see if you could play knight a6 to any good effect, but I think queen a7 would have just done the job.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
E4 played. So
Yeah.
now white's going to go down potentially 2 pawns, right? But the pawns will be certainly very fractured, and I guess we'll be able to recapture on c5.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right.
bishop c8 played because he didn't really like that line.
The tension continues.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, this game is certainly exciting now because black also has to watch out for e5 and e6 ideas coming up with the knight coming to f4.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be kind of wanting to play c5 for black because it's good against the bishop a3 and knight d3, and I'm kind of worried about white playing c5 and opening his rook. But
Pawn to c5, but the thing about pawn c5 is, yeah, I see that. I see what you're trying to say.
It's basically just that I'm worried about white doing it, which I guess is a good sign for how Frolyanov's playing this position if he's got ideas that are making me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I find this game really exciting, actually.
Right.
And it looks like c5, knight f4 was played.
Yeah.
So we're guessing all the moves, and the move e6, because of course the weakness of c5 is that it really makes the square d5 look like a great potential spot. So e6 played.
Yep.
But now rook b1, putting pressure on the pawn, and you can't really play rook d6 because e5 would have been good. So that's why knight d7.
Yep. Knight d7 was the only way, and then it gives white the chance to play h5 and poke at something. So I was kind of playing guess the move with arrows there for a couple moves, but I think both players are playing quite well. I'm impressed with how much Frolyanov's able to come up with in a position where it looked like, yeah, you're up, your pieces are active, but what are you going to do with them, right? And now he's made black play e6, so now he aims towards the dark squares, right? He's also got the h-pawn. But
so bishop b2, bishop d4 played.
That's nice. He's not going to just cede that diagonal. No bishop b2, queen b2.
And you're not remotely worried about the pawn getting to h6 because it's so hard for us queen to get into the game.
Well, what is Frolyanov going to do if Pono plays e5 now? What is he going to do if black plays e5?
I don't know. He might start trying to do stuff like bishop h3. No, the pawn on e4 is currently hanging, so we'd have to start.
He'll probably go knight c3, actually. He'll go knight c3 and see if black's worried about knight d5. And if black takes on c3, then he's got the dark squared bishop to sort of roam free again.
I just want to get my queen over to the king side at some point, David.
Yeah,
so
now
that,
you do.
At least you're like slightly worried about stuff like h6 in the future.
Uh-huh.
But I like knight c3 also. I'm trying to get like queen f3 and knight c3 in. Bishop c1, none of the above.
None of the above.
But another kind of way to take advantage of the dark squares and kind of suggests that the bishop on d4, as pretty as it might look, may not be that great.
Right, he's trying to say, I'm going to play around the bishop on d4. I mean, I've seen people play around like a knight outpost on b3 or b6. That's a pretty typical way to deal with that kind of a weak square. But a piece on d4 or d5, I don't know if I've ever seen anyone successfully play around a piece like that.
Well, here I kind of like it because the one thing you don't want when you're trying to create compensation for a pawn, like whether you got it or not, you certainly won't want to do a lot of trades, right? Something that we learned very early. But look at this move, bishop f3, the creativity continues, and he's planning to play king g2 and rook h1 and open up another avenue against the d7 king.
Yeah.
I love it, but
rook
look at
f8.
this move, rook
He's
f8.
thinking about f5. He's thinking about making the king on g2 a problem, not letting white just settle down and attack. I have to think for all white's creativity, it might still favor black this game. This game is just so interesting. In the background, MVL has won against Zaven, and I'm going to click over to another game for a second just to see how Van Welly and Sevion are doing.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. Although I really do like the Frolylab game. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I think we stumbled on one of the most exciting games possible. It looks like Sevion's doing great. I think the knight's better than the bishop here. Not if the queens get traded, though.
Yeah, it does seem like black is a little bit better for some reason, but maybe that's just a visual because of like the knight looking so nice on f3. This queen e2 move could nip things in the bud.
Yeah, I think the
Well,
knight looks good and is good. So I think that we're right to kind of like black's position here. But Van Welly's got an extra minute versus, this one versus like 50 seconds. So that's a little something to help him out here. And everyone's going to be wondering about these 4 points for the New York Marshals here.
well, we do have some news on that. Did you read?
No, why don't you tell us the news?
Yeah, it looks like the Moscow Phoenix have not shown up and will be forfeited for every round.
Ooh, so the Marshals don't really have a lead. They've got the same 4 points everyone's going to get.
I think that's good though. At least that makes it more fair. I think that if somebody, you know what I'm saying? Like if one person were to get the forfeit and others weren't, that would make it almost worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's unfortunate, and we will let you guys know if we get any more information on that and if anything changes. But for those of you who picked Moscow players on your fantasy team, sorry.
Wah, wah. You're in the situation that I was in last week when I picked Nepomniachtchi in his debut. I was like, Nepo, he's good at rapid chess. I know. I've seen this guy play the World Rapid Championships, and then he subbed out.
Unfortunately, Frolyev just lost. We were watching him fight hard, but Panamariev was able to consolidate an extra couple pawns, and he actually resigned in a position soon after we left it. So well played by Panamariev by staying active. I like that move, rook f8 and f5. How many of you would have gone for that? You're up a pawn, your opponent's starting to attack you, and you attack them.
Yeah, and I showed everybody the moves here just to see how it happened. That pawn on h5 that was supposed to tickle black ended up just being the second pawn to die. When black opened up the f-file with threats. And,
well played game. Very well played by Panamariev. I'm pretty excited to continue to see his games.
He handled everything there nicely.
Let's look over Raven Sturt's game for the Sopranos against the Liam Rolyk of the Mosquitoes, because they're in time pressure, baby.
That queen is annoying. Frolik has the extra minute, so it's really only the severe time pressure for Raven.
That's true.
He's gonna be pretty worried here, I think, facing this extra two pawns.
He's just totally lost because there's the extra 2 pawns and the extra minute.
I think 2 pawns in the time is basically like black doesn't have much of a chance.
Okay, let's go over to another one then. Let's go over to Rigoli of the Migraines versus Anna Sargsyan of the Armenian Eagles, because this one's actually really exciting.
Whoa.
Both of them have no time.
Yeah.
And Sargsyan of the Eagles is up in exchange. But look at that H pawn.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on at all.
In my experience, these positions are often decided by the A and H pawns. As we say that, both players aim for checkmate.
Ooh, rook d8, threatening queen h8 mate. Is there any good response to this, David? I don't think so.
The king's running. She could have tried to cut the king off with queen f6, but instead she went for the chasing approach. So the king's out in the open now.
Too late to analyze it now.
Oh, now the king's escaped. Now the king's escaped, right? He'll hide behind the white pawns. You'll never checkmate that king now. And the king will support the h pawn. So this went very bad.
It did. It seemed
Black
like she wasted
Black
time.
could have traded queens last move. They didn't, but they could have. Now they're doing it. A queen trade is actually fine for black here because the bishop on e4 is so good with an h pawn and an a pawn.
Yes, I think you're right. I mean, look at this h pawn go. It's just a little bit too fast, David.
Oh, and as we say that, this pawn is hung. If bishop g2, white can play rook g2, pawn g2, queens, and then after black queens, queen a7 check.
Oh, so no, something went wrong, but that's why it's good that she has a couple extra pawns, David.
Yeah, she's got to use the next one. Had to drop the h pawn there. Queens?
I don't.
Queens?
Okay. Oh, no, rook takes e4.
The king needed to never go near the bishop with that e-file.
No. Oh no, and there it
And
goes as Anna
Anna
Sargsyan.
wins.
Very exciting game. Nice
Yeah.
one. Nice one. Okay, other time
2
scrambles.
games left. Alexander Lenderman against Wouter Spulman. It's black who could win with 3 passed pawns that white has to be very careful defending.
No, I think black's got to be winning this, right? How can you defend against 3 pawns? That's too many pawns,
I never
David.
have succeeded at defending against the 3 pawns. I've tried.
No way. No way. And then the other game.
But with 10 seconds, it's within the realm of like black hangs 1 pawn and you're fine, right? I mean, one thing. Maybe it's more likely that white hangs a knight fork, but if black makes 1 mistake, Lenderman can draw it.
And here we also have Marisa Bag playing against Arthur Gabrielian of the Eagles. Yeah,
it looks like she's got this one in the bag. Pass pawns on the H file and the A files.
And there it is.
H-file Genial.
Grandmaster from France, who, by the way, was just at the Karen's Cup here in St. Louis just like 2 days ago. So still jet lagged, but got the job done.
And here comes
tournament here, David. So it's kind of nice to see her rebound and do well in the first round of the Pro Chess League. Actually, she had a miserable event, but she was awesome as a person. Oh, look at that! She played Rook B2 because it would have been a stalemate if we took it.
Yep.
But instead, of course, checkmate, as those pawns did indeed turn out to be too much.
Yeah. So once this pawn got to H3, black set up. I mean, I guess it was smart to bring the knight to G3. Spillman set up this checkmating net with the rook, knight, and pawn. And there was just nothing for Lenderman to do about it. So you were right. There was never really any particular hope there for white. The knight is just so good on one side of the board. It's almost like you're up 3 pawns and not down in exchange. It's just...
Well, let's take a look at what we've got here with the standings so far.
Are you kidding me that the Mosquitoes 4-0'd the Sopranos?
Wow. Yeah, that didn't occur to me because we were looking at the game so quickly. But yeah, I guess Lenderman, this game we saw right here, was a loss. But what about that Sevian game?
I know. That means Sevian lost that endgame with the knight against bishop.
Yeah. Remember we were saying that we liked the... I think that it was a little bit more visual, though, that advantage for black because the knight looked so imposing. But Luke Van Wheely was finding a lot of good moves there. Nice. Jay Brazel says, of course she wins. I didn't put her on my chess PCL fantasy team.
After considering her, right? You're like, this is one of the people I should maybe put on my team. Yeah, I can confirm that Van Wely won. I found the game. I think I can open it in live analysis.
Yeah, Luke Van Wheely.
Turn off that. Oh, the next round is starting.
Nice. Let's go. By the way, it doesn't seem like there was only 1 draw, and we actually caught it. Remember the one against Vallejo and Andreken? Every other game decisive, so pretty bloody. Are you
kidding?
Here.
We caught the only draw
at the Battle Royale. That's why it's called the Battle Royale.
Well, it wasn't a boring draw. I mean, it was a draw by bishop sack and perpetual. It's not the worst.
Yeah, I mean, any draw that is a sacrifice followed by perpetual, unless it's opening preparation, I feel like that doesn't really count as a draw.
Yeah.
To me, that's a different category. All right, where do we want to start? We can go anywhere you want.
Yeah, we can. Let's start with MVL since he played such a fast opening last game.
Oh, yeah,
or is his team playing against the bye right now? Because I don't see his game.
Yeah, he's not up yet. You want to check in with Vallejo?
Let's check in Vallejo against Wojciech Moranda.
Vallejo's playing with white, and it looks like he's got this endgame. Maybe not the best game to pick. Slight edge for white because the king on e7 is, of course, interfering with the rest of our army. But
wow, king to e7. I have never seen that move before.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
It almost looks like a mouse slip of king e8, but
yeah. I wonder if it's a mouse split because look at this move b3 now, coming in with the threat of bishop a3 check.
It's awkward. I mean, if you would ask yourself what's the reason for king e7, you would think to play bishop e6 without getting doubled pawns. But my experience in these endgames is that often black plays bishop e6 and doesn't care about getting the doubled pawns.
Oh no, he's supposed to play
right?
bishop to c8, David. This can't be preparation. It can't be, can it? No.
Wait, who's supposed to play
Okay.
bishop c8?
Bishop e6. Okay, bishop e6. I thought you were.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought you were moving the bishop back to c8. I was like,
Oh
that
no,
can't
sorry.
possibly
I was just
happen.
showing what he just did.
So yeah, bishop to e6. I agree. This looks weird, but at the same time, I'm not convinced it was a mouse slip because,
Okay,
like you said, there is a logical reason for
right.
playing king seven, right?
And he did follow it up with the move that could have been the idea of it, and reasonably quickly. So, yeah, well, we'll check back in on this, but this isn't going to thrill the fans here at this point. So,
I think that Azarov Panamariev's got a lot of potential for explosiveness as we see a very exciting advanced variation of the Carol Khan.
oh,
Looks like
yeah,
it's going to be really explosive with
the,
an early f6.
the F pawn's been moved.
Yeah, Panamariev was black last game, right? In that exciting game that we saw where he played rook
Yep,
f8 and f5 at some point.
yeah.
So
So,
maybe
we got our first glimpse of the Marshals in action since they had the first round bye, which the Migraines just took to leapfrog into first place in quotes in the standings. But I guess you could just add 4 points to everybody else's score, or subtract 4 points from the Migraines and the Marshals to know what the real standings are like.
I guess the
Um,
question is whether there's an advantage to having that break because the Pro Chess League action is so fast and furious
mhm.
that having a break in the middle maybe is better than having it towards the beginning.
Yeah,
I don't.
I think the first round would be the worst time to get it probably.
Yeah, because it's
Um,
also a little bit less. It's a little bit more stressful and confusing because you don't know exactly what's going on. But I don't know because there's also an argument that people get into kind of a flow state and like once they get into their groove they start doing really well.
right.
So I think it could go either way. But
You
as
might
for the
not
position
want that
right
break
now,
to ice you.
as a position right now for Panamaria, is he in trouble here? Because my
B5.
concern is that after this move b5, we're going to take on e5, we're going to take on d4, and then how does queen h5 check look? Doesn't that look real dangerous?
It looks quite dangerous. Wow, B5. I for a second
So
when he played B5, I was thinking, is Black going to consider E4 or something like that? But then there's bishop takes G7 as well. So I guess that was not at all an option. Um, so he moved the knight to D4, let White have Queen H5 with check. I guess Ponomarev is up a pawn this way at least, right? Like
that's true.
Azarov
King
didn't
f8.
have time to both disrupt castling and collect his pawn.
So king f8, rook, king f8 obviously castles knight f6. Queen quickly came back to e2,
Mm-hmm.
and now that king on f8 so unfortunately placed. Is it enough compensation for the pawn? I'd say yes because if we really wanted to, we could also collect the pawn with like knight d2, knight f3, queen a5. I don't think we're gonna have trouble winning back that pawn if that's our priority.
Yeah, I mean, if White collected the pawn without anything weird happening in between, White would have an advantage. So
Yeah, maybe.
to me,
Hmm.
Black either has to somehow try and play E5 to safeguard the pawn, in which case Black would be winning if they could somehow safely play E5, or they have to achieve something special while White's taking the pawn.
Queen d6 played. As you mentioned, e5 right away, we would have just taken it. So now e5 is part of the idea. There's a lot of ways we could potentially play against this. I mean, don't forget, we could just play the blunt looking f4. I mean,
Yeah,
it's always possible.
I
Another
think.
thing that always needs to be thought of is move a4, looking to play bishop a3.
Yeah,
Um, after which bishop takes c5, queen c5, e5 would be taking. But he chose f4, and
yeah.
yeah, I don't hate that move because
Both Azarov and I agree with you. Like F4 seems like you want to stop E5. There may even be situations where you want to play F5 later. It gets you some space. It gets you E5 as an outpost for the knight, possibly. Yeah, this was a good move.
yeah, yeah. At first, normally when I have my king on g1 and there's a bishop on b6, I don't like playing f4. But there's a lot of exceptional things about this position, David. It's
Yeah,
not your typical position. Uh, what's up next for white? I thinking of the idea knight d2, knight f3,
yeah,
and that's going to be really scary. So blacks,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't like black here, especially
yeah.
not in a blitz game.
And I'm
White all
sure
the
he'll
way.
also play King H1 at some point to make you feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
And
There's-
yeah, black needs to do something with the bishop on c8, needs to do something with the rooks. Where's the counterplay for black? Where's the counterplay? Yeah, he's got an outpost. White definitely
Okay,
does
looking
not
at
want
the
to
stand,
play the
I,
bishop takes e4. But he definitely does want to play knight d2. So he comes here to harass. He's got to find ways to harass white.
knight c3. Okay, that was his idea.
Mm-hmm.
But something feels off to me here, David, because I now you have like no defenders around your king. So what if I just play like queen h5 back to where it was before?
Mm-hmm.
And there it
Yeah.
is. And now the one guy defending your king is off on c3. Bishop d7 played.
Mm-hmm.
Now the good thing for black is that if I try to just play like f5, then you get to play e5. So I really want to crack open the position with f5 and f6,
Yeah.
but not that easy to do.
I mean, you can already consider it. I think
Yeah.
it's not yet good, but it's close to working, which is very bad sign for black. If you calculate
There it is.
what?
I thought
Oh
it
no.
happened on the board. Sorry.
I was just
Yeah.
going to show a quick variation to show people that it's close to working. If we go f5, f6, and then queen h6 check, then the king has to defend this pawn on f6. And if he goes to e7, queen g7 wins. So he has to go to f7. And then white could play rook f6 check and trade the rooks for the queen.
Or bishop takes h7.
Which is not quite good enough. Or they could play bishop takes h7. And I don't necessarily think this is great for white, but just the fact that it's already so close to working is a very bad sign for black, right? That white could do something that will make it work. Oh, he just played f5 for real. For real.
Yeah, no, I don't know about you. Bishop h7, I think might be pretty good for white.
Might be good enough. Okay.
Yeah, maybe. He's played e5, and now are we going to see f6 immediately, or is there like a pre-move?
Maybe on f6, black will play e4 to block the bishop out and allow f takes g7.
Oh boy, wow!
Because that would be his counterplay. Would be something in the center.
I don't know though. Maybe I can play the in-between move, queen g5, David.
Yeah, I mean, I might die for sure. For sure, I might.
f6 e4 queen g5 instead of taking on g7 right away. I think that move looks pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I'm going to be taking on g7 with really terrible effect. Oh, there's just takes on g7 and queen f7 mate pointed out by Greg. So there's just an immediate mate actually.
He's played f6.
f6 played. So you can't play e4.
No, can't play e4.
I think he has to go for your line, David, but I didn't really like that much.
Because there would be this. Okay. So you think he's got to just take
F6,
it?
Yeah.
Because if he plays g6, then this f6 pawn is just in there. That's like an extra piece for white. And white can get his bishop to g6 before e4 gets played. And white can play queen h6, queen g7 at will.
No.
So,
I think he's going to play your line. I think he's going to play the line we first looked at because I don't see anything else. Maybe there's something else. I don't see it.
This is sick. So the Marshalls players on first and second boards, Miranda and Azarov, they're not like household 2,700 names. Like, Ponomariov's a former FIDE world champion, I guess, from the old days when their knockout was called the championships. But, world champion or not, he was over 2,700. MVL, over 2,700. But these guys, Azarov and Miranda, they have performed above their ratings all season long. That's how the Marshalls win every match, partly.
Well, that's what I love about the Pro Chess League. When it comes down to it, when you're playing for your team, some of these grandmasters who aren't as famous can show what they got.
Yeah.
And we got G takes f6, by the way. He agreed that the problem is you got to take the pawn because the pawn is another attacker, David.
Mm-hmm.
And you just do the math. You can't defend against the rook, the queen, the pawn, and the bishop with 0 defenders. So you got to at least gamble, roll the dice, see if you can somehow survive this queen h6, king f7, bishop takes h7 line.
I love that advice to just count it up. Just like you can't play if you let white have an extra piece on f6. So yeah. Oh, he's cashing in for the queen. Cashing in for the queen. This is a light surprise to me. I wasn't expecting him to choose this option.
You were thinking we would see the line with the bishop takes h7.
I was thinking he would play some line with more pieces on the board. Yeah. He could play with the bishop on h7 with or without queen h6 check. He could have played the move a4. There were like a few ideas there. He could have played knight f3. But he goes for this, and he even allows d3 check.
Kindarka asks, who considers Ponomarev world champion? A lot of people do. I mean, it's not his fault that the world championship was held differently at that time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think it's cool. You just had qualify it, FIDE world champion, but yeah,
Okay.
it's a lifetime achievement, David.
So black had to keep the white queen out of e5, and now white would like to bring the knight to f3 and g5. I'm a little bit suspicious, though, honestly, of how white has played this.
Yeah, we were just singing Azarov's praises, but still, I see what you're saying. I mean, the queen and the knight seem to be really well coordinated here, but black does have the pawn, so if he can consolidate, black's just going to win.
And now if you count the pieces, like, it doesn't say that white's going to checkmate, does it? The crude count.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, yeah, like, no, we've just got the queen and the knight.
It's like queen and knight against, rook and bishop defending. Like, I don't know.
Well, there's like d3 check and knight e2, and suddenly these pawns are getting pretty nasty. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm pretty concerned here that things went awry for Azarov. And maybe the problem was because obviously he's a better calculator than I am. And I'm not using a computer engine, and neither are you. Maybe there was something with that bishop h7 line that he saw. He calculated that he didn't like, something to maybe explore later.
It was definitely messy, like something could go wrong there, but right now both of his bishops are sitting this game out. So
no, we need to get one of them in with like a4. Maybe we sacrifice with a4 so that our bishop can go to a3. But he just played queen h6 check, so that's not
the opposite. Yeah if the queen's going to dark squares, then he needs the light squared bishop.
But we've repeated once. Well, not yet, but we're...
You think he might be aiming for just checks, huh? For a draw by check?
Maybe he just wants to repeat at this point.
Yeah. He could have played a weird queen g7, knight takes d4 there, which looks super risky, but he just needs one more move for the bishop on b2 to get through the knight on c3.
So black's now thinking about the risky king d6.
Mm-hmm.
Just not allowing a draw by repetition, just trying to flee with the king. Because think about it, if the king were to get to b8, that would be a pretty nice spot.
Wow, now he allows the knight in as his choice. So there's an option to go knight e5, but then on king e6, you can't keep checking with the queen. It looks like Azarov might just want this draw. And that's reasonable. I mean, he probably assumes that Grant Chu is winning against the board 4 of the Raptors right now without even looking.
All right, should we take a look at a couple other games then? As this one might go to perpetual. We'll keep an eye. It's been a pretty exciting pick, David, though I have to say.
Yeah.
You want to take a look at? Let me take a quick gander around which one might be the most interesting.
Yep, looking around. How about Lenderman's game against Frolyanov?
Yeah, that's what I saw too. Alexander Lenderman's with Frolyanov looks quite exciting, as it seems like Frolyanov is getting into pretty crazy positions in both of the rounds so far.
Good Lord. He must have traded a piece for a bunch of pawns to get here, right?
Well, it looks like Alex Lenderman is, he's got a couple pawns. He's up a piece for a couple pawns, right?
So this is some kind of an exchange Queen's Gambit where black sacked a piece to tear open the king side. He's winning back material by force on this a6 to e2 diagonal, I'm sure. And that means that black's in pretty good shape. He can win here, I think. Bishop d3, rook d3, knight g5.
Yeah, just getting rid of the defender of each of g2.
And then queen d5, queen takes d3, queen a8 check, king h7, and then I think the black attack wins through there.
Ooh.
Somebody's suggesting rook e8. Someone's suggesting rook e8. I know there's simpler moves here for black, like c6, rook e8 and stuff, because the rook on d3 is trapped. But I think bishop d3, knight g5 should win the game. So
poor
maybe
Lenderman,
just go for that.
As this is not going well, David, for the Sopranos. They got whitewashed in the first round, and now Lenderman looks like he's going down again. And mentioned how tentative their spot in the top 4 was, and how important this was
they're
for them.
they're also, I think, losing on board one. If I click over here, I didn't even show. Oh no, Sevion's got black this game, so he's got 2 pieces
Ooh,
against the rooks. So that is actually
nice.
looking good for them.
Black's looking good, although it's not
Yeah,
easy because as we see in the end game, these rooks coordinate really well.
yeah,
So it's not going to be easy peasy technique.
yeah.
But yeah,
But
Black
it
should
looks
be
quite
doing
good
really
with
well.
a passed C pawn. He doesn't need to like win the fight on the king side. He just needs to hold things together.
That's
So
true. That's true. Maybe this is easier after this very simple rook f8 move. I didn't consider that.
yeah. Okay, so
But
maybe they're getting on the board. But in this game here, back to the more exciting one, Frolyanov played rook e8, which looked very solid, and Lenderman has to move his rook to a square where it can be taken. So that's not that exciting. And Frolyanov doesn't take it. That's a very bad sign when your opponent won't even take your rook. It means he's going to do something pretty bad to you in a second.
oh boy.
Yeah. Where does he go now? Queen G3 allows rook H1. Queen F2 allows rook H1. Every move he can play allows rook H1, except for Queen D5, which allows rook E3. But maybe Queen H4 first is better before rook E3, just so that it's mate, you know? Like Queen H4, Knight F2, rook E3. Ugh. Oh, this is getting...
Yeah, bad start for Grandmaster Alex Lenderman.
This is getting into look away
It is
territory.
painful. You know, I am very, very close to New Jersey, so it's tough to see the Montclair sub go down like this, David.
Yeah.
But hey, there's a lot of rounds left. So you're thinking Queen H4, and it's almost resignable.
That, yeah. I mean, depending on whether or not you want to watch yourself get checkmated.
Well, whether you want to let Twitch watch you get checkmated.
Whether you
right?
want, like, all the thousands of people on Twitch to watch you get checkmated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Queen H4, there it is. Queen H4 check.
Honestly,
And
the only surprise is that he thought for a while before doing it. It's so brutal.
Rook F2 played.
Oh, rook F2.
Of course, Knight F2 would have get him mated.
Okay.
So, but can't you play Rook H1 and then Rook E3 and then Queen F2? That looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rook H1 was played with the idea that after Rook takes H1, Bishop takes H1, Rook E3, you're now going to be forced to D2, after which Queen F2 is on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I did.
Wow, it did all happen, and now the material count is 2 extra pawns for Frolyanov. He's recovered his material, but Lenderman miraculously has avoided mate.
But okay,
for
right.
a moment.
But yeah, for a moment, can't we play Rook E2?
Yeah, he did.
And you can't defend both B2 and C2. So that's going to be that.
Something.
Unless you have some kind of check that I didn't see that
Right.
helps you, like Queen A8 check, King H7, Queen A6. That doesn't help because we just play Rook C2 check and we just windmill off all your pieces and then mate you.
Yeah.
Is there a better move? I don't think so. But meanwhile, we got some more results coming in.
All right.
Arthur Gabrielian did win, and if we take a look at the final position there, it's a really nice final checkmate. If you want to just open up the game against Liam Vroliak.
I don't know if I can.
Oh, you can't. Sorry,
if I can find it.
Can.
Sorry. Thank you.
But it's a nice checkmate if you want to look at it on the live board, guys.
Yeah, for anybody who wants to follow all the games, in addition to what we're doing, the command to issue is /follow #ProChess.
And let's take a look at Walter Spielman's game against Sambel Sakayan of the Armenian Eagles, as that's going bananas. In the in-time scramble. Oh boy,
Indeed.
gotta look at that.
11 seconds for black with their king just set up to get checked around. Oh, looks like he's not going to be checked around for long. Looks like he's done.
Queen
Spolman.
C3 check and Knight E5 doesn't really help. Rook E5.
Oh, God. Oh, my goodness. He wouldn't even take it with his rook, which looked decent.
Queen
He
E2
takes
and
it
Queen D1.
with this check.
So he has to do everything with check because
he
Queen
has
E2,
to do it all
Queen
with check.
D1 is on the menu.
Wow, so he still doesn't have that covered. He's collected a full rook, and the game is still in doubt, actually.
How's
Spolman
that even
thinking,
possible? We
thinking.
have queen c5 check, right?
Yeah.
Queen c5 check, but even there,
97 maybe?
or
And we still
or
need to
king
get to
e8,
E2
rook
somehow.
g8, or king e8, rook g8, king d7. No, but then you have the c3 square to hide your king, right, David?
Yep. The king has a square now, at least.
So that's what he did. He did queen c5, figured out that king e8, rook g8, we would have been able to hide our king. So instead, knight e7, bishop g7, check king e8, rook e5. There goes the bishop. But now c3 is open to hide.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the king is going to successfully hide.
Looks like he's
Because,
getting to A2.
yeah, king b3.
Yeah, bishop D5. That forces him to take it, which he's happy to take. Oh my god. The rook gets into the action. B6 and
No,
E6.
stop. This game is still going on.
Yeah, Spolman was down to
No.
2 seconds before playing queen C5 there. Rook
Queen
E6,
C5.
blocking the win. And now they're in an endgame, Jen, and nobody's won this yet.
Oh, man. Bishop f6, knight d5.
Can he
Suddenly
take the
everything is
bishop?
threatened.
Can he take this bishop?
C6. Yes. There we go.
I think he felt like if he didn't go for something, he was going to lose to the H pawn, but that was quite a piece sack. Now he's definitely going to lose. Wow.
Yeah.
I was going to say Spolman's been an incredible performer in this league so far and has almost never lost, but here he's in trouble.
Here he's going down, but what an exciting game, man. I think everybody missed some stuff there.
Yeah.
But let's go to one of the other time scrambles. As this one looks like it's kaput.
Yep. Bryatkin
right.
and Sturt.
There's actually only one now. Mikhail Bryatkin versus Raven Stewart. Yep.
Yeah. And this one looks a lot better for Sturt than the last endgame we saw him in. This time he's the one with the extra pawn. But can he win it? 11 seconds each.
Yes.
Oh, he got the B3 pawn. That's what he needed. That's what he needed. I guess he's going to have to give his bishop for that A pawn. But will white go for the A pawn or take on E5 to try and draw? I think take on E5 to try and draw.
And we have only one other game between Grant Jew of the Marshalls and Angel Luis Cubas of the Barcelona Raptors. As this one looks like, yeah, I mean, black should be able to win this. B3, knight D5 check, king C2. Look at that pawn go.
Yeah.
But where to hide our king now? King C4.
Well, the migraines are playing practice games, by the way, like between the rounds.
And here we have it.
All right, Sturt wins. I see Fressinet and Bacro. They're playing practice games.
Oh, that's hilarious. But let's stick with Grant Jew versus Marfa.
For some reason, I just don't have Grant Jew's game.
Oh, okay. It's at the very bottom. Maybe
it's at the very bottom of every.
Maybe it's cut off on your screen because it's the very bottom game in my monitor.
Oh, but you're right. I found it.
Regardless,
Thank you.
it looks like white is going to win this one. As Grant Jew is up actually he's up a piece, but Cubas of the Raptors has 2 pawns for it. Oh, you did get it. You got it. Good.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Can white win this?
Maybe. He could have gone king e4, d4 instead of king e2, d2, and there wouldn't have been the rook check to keep the b pawn on the board. So, I don't know. I mean, right now it's looking pretty tough to win. Wait, he allowed mate in 1. He allowed mate in 1.
Check. Oh, and now he sees it. King g4. I think Grant Jew might have pre-moved that.
He might have had a pre-move going.
Unfortunately,
he's under 10 seconds. With a king.
Bishop h4, and now he grabs one of the pawns.
Yeah. Bishop f2.
Okay.
Cutting him off from that.
Be winning
it looks like he's winning. Bishop g3 is easiest here, not giving the rook any more space to maneuver.
That's right. I mean, the rook is almost trapped, right?
I mean,
So rook h1.
he still has to break a fortress, but capturing both black pass pawns is a very, very good start on this endgame.
Although
Because
mate would have been even better.
mate would have been even better.
Mate would have been better,
Yeah.
but that's okay. Hey, now we at least get to. Everybody else gets to have a little bit more rest now. So
Right.
Grant Chu is doing one for the rest of the Pro Chess League teams. Oh no, I wonder if Bishop G5 type stuff wins here.
I think that's his plan because I don't know how else
Yeah,
he would
maybe
be
he's just
breaking
trying to
through
gain
from
some
this
time. But I
angle.
feel like Bishop G5 with the idea that after pawn G5, and then we bring our king to G6, and
Right, and threatening
like
back rank mate.
yeah, everything's so happy. He hasn't done it yet. I think he's still trying to figure out if it's good. Just move the pieces around a little bit first. But I think eventually he will come across that plan because it looks so juicy.
The only other way to try and win is to bring his rook to the third rank, play bishop g3, and dig his king out.
And it's possible. Well, he's played rook c3. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Rook g3.
Didn't he have rook g7 check just now? And bishop takes f2? He did.
Nice one, yeah.
Oof. This one is not
Hey.
so easy. Oh.
Oh, but rook g3.
Now
okay.
he's got bishop
Now
f6
there's
possibly.
F6.
Or
use
this
your
time
plan
he saw
before.
it. Yep.
All right. Well, this is the last game, and Grant Chu's winning it. As the king does circle around and grab the pawn.
Grant Chu just called me. He said, thanks for mentioning rook g7. And then he got back to blitzing.
There we go. Just don't. Is there a way to lose this? No. There's not even a way to fall for some kind of trick.
I mean, he's got 18 seconds now, so nothing
Apparently,
can go
one of
wrong.
Angel Luis Cubas wants to go grab a coffee or something. He's like, come on, just keep the game going so I can get my coffee. I'd appreciate that as a coffee addict.
Yeah.
And then we have the second queen, and Grant Chu wins it for the Marshals.
I'd say it's a good sign for the Raptors that Kubas was able to play such a competitive game with Grant Chu, who's like probably like the best board four, or if not the best, one of the best. So and Kubas is this unknown player with the low rating. He's sort of like potentially the weak link on the Raptors. He's the only reason I didn't pick them to win this battle royale. So hanging in there was pretty good for him.
And I am Suyu says, so Grant was listening to the commentary?
As a joke.
No. David Bruce was just making a joke. David Bruce.
My phone rang and I answered it, because I've got babies strewn around the city. And if they have an emergency, I have to know. So I held the phone up and then covered it with a joke. But
yeah, they need to bring back the beeper so that you only get calls from your kids, so that more parents with young kids could still play tournaments.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got Miranda versus Andreykin.
We've got Miranda
starting. This is going at a very fast pace.
This is nonstop action, especially for Grant. His game already started as well. He had a 2-second increment between his games.
But let's get situated with the standings while we're getting in the first move. So note that the Marshals and the Migraines already got their 4 points by. So these standings are a bit misleading. It's actually the Mosquitoes that are completely crushing, right?
Right, because the Mosquitoes had a genuine 4-0. They actually won a match 4-0 and then 2-2 in their next match.
Right. So you got 6 out of so Mosquitoes so far are technically on top, but who else has
the Marshals did their normal thing. They just barely won against the Raptors, 2.5, 1.5. The Marshals always just eke things out by the minimum number of games to win.
Right. And the Eagles, we've got a request for more Eagles games.
For more Eagles.
Well, I'm sure we'll be able to honor that as the round goes on. Let us know if you've got any more specific requests.
Yeah.
We did see. I remember we saw Sargsyan, Anna winning on board 4 earlier.
We did. We also saw Tersahakian win that wild game against Spolman, which was one of the most thrilling games we've seen yet today.
Well, but let's go to, of course, the game that everybody's mouth is watering over is Maxime Vachier-Lagrave versus Vallejo Pons. So we've got the Migrants versus the Raptors.
Yeah. we got this 8th, 6 Queen's Gambit declined, which I just cannot wrap my head around, even though 27 after 2700 is playing it nowadays. And he goes into an exchange Queen's Gambit structure, very standard, and Vallejo plays the other rook pawn to rook 3.
And now it looks like Maxime has a choice. What does he want to do here? Is he ready to castle David, or does he have some other plan in mind? Does he want to try to like maybe take use of the fact that this pawn is on g3 and even consider a castling queenside? Doesn't that look suicidal?
H6.
What do you think?
H6 is fine if he plans to castle kingside. It's also fine if he doesn't plan to castle
No.
kingside.
I mean for white.
Oh, is white going to...
MVL right now is he thinking about not castling, maybe playing for queenside castles?
G4, G5 would be a possible lever if he went for that. He could also play a very weird move here with knight to E5 because black won't really want to play F6 having played H6.
Well, yeah, because then we'd be able to play queen H5 check, and, that would be an embarrassing finish for Vallejo pawns.
Yeah, so he can plop that knight on E5 if he wants. Okay, he goes for queen C2 for now.
So he hasn't given black the address of his king yet.
He hasn't revealed it yet. Although queen C2 does sort of like give a hint of queenside, like you were suggesting.
Sure. I mean, it looks really... The thing about castle and queenside is it looks so dangerous with your king only being on C1 and black clearly geared up to play B5. But that said, white's just got the lead in development. So certainly has to be considered. And there it is, queenside castles for MVL. This is going to be an exciting game.
I think pawns might mirror him. I think pawns might want to mirror him. That's why we see him developing his queenside pieces.
I don't know if it's going to be as easy, though. I mean, he can do it, but he's going to be a little behind. As bishop f5 played, now you're thinking just like queen e7.
Yeah, queen f6, queen e7.
Got it. But and then takes on e6. If we take on e6, what would you take with the pawn or the queen? Well, there he actually played bishop takes f5, which surprises me a little because it seems a little scary to let that queen out. But his idea was just to play queen f6.
So now white could play g4 if he wants to hold his position. He could play queen c2, and black can't castle queenside because of knight d5, which is slightly annoying. But I think black was thinking that, on queen f6, bishop e6, queen takes e6, the queen would go to e6 anyway, so maybe now it'll go to e6.
So queen c2 played. I like your idea that you can't play cancel queenside because of knight takes d5.
Yeah. So maybe now queen e6 is the logical move, trying to castle queenside.
But e4 is also on tap, David.
Yeah, it is. It is. And if I go for queen e6, then maybe white would play e4, pawn takes e4, pawn to d5 even. Something like really aggressive. But if white gets too aggressive, then maybe pawns can castle kingside after all. See how that is going to play out there.
Well, I'd like to honor a request and take a look at Sam Sevian's game against Andreassian of the Armenian Eagles, as this game looks like it's pretty exciting. A queen trade is on tap, but in these types of French endgames, that's often something that white wants to avoid. If you want to take us to Konovets versus Zavin.
Okay, Konovets versus Zavin, sure. I clicked on the wrong one for a second, and it was also a French, so that was
gosh, yeah,
confusing for a sec, because that was kind of like the national opening for Armenia for many years.
Yeah, I mean, that one looks really exciting, too, if you want to look at it after. I found this one to be kind of strategically interesting, because I've tried to play lines like this with white, and I always feel so miserable if queens come off the board, right? Because I don't have much going for me anymore. So should white just avoid the queen trade here with something like queen b5?
The thing that's nice for white here is that the black rook is disconnected from the fight for the c file, right? So if white traded queens, they could immediately play rook c1, and black has to just give the c file to white. But if white thinks they need more than that, then they could keep queens on the board and still try to play rook c1. Like white could play queen b5 or something and wait for rook c1.
Yeah, I'm definitely not trading queens here as white. I'm definitely thinking I'm playing queen b5 or something like that. Let's go to the other
Okay.
French that you
The other
accidentally pulled
French
up
that I actually
because that looked pretty exciting too.
it
Alex
did.
Lenderman,
He
right?
just traded queens though. By I think as I was clicking, I think I saw the.
Yeah, I guess I was wrong because he just has this very concrete idea of getting the C file. So strategically, I always feel like I lose these, but Sam's just got a very concrete plan. And then he played knight b3, which we'll check in at right after this.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
So
So this is what
so he,
happened. The knight came to b3.
so another Sam, by the way, playing with white, right?
Yeah, and this is kind of crazy. This is like playing the French against the French or something like that, right? Like, um, Alexander Lenderman is playing the French against Teresa Hakian, who probably played against the French more than any other opening growing up.
Oh, and by the way, somebody corrected me and said that this was actually a Carol Khan defense that it looks like a French now. The one
Oh,
it was Zabin. But that,
okay.
anyway,
It was still
going
it was
back
still a French at
going
that
back
point.
to the game with Lenderman.
Yeah.
Let's situate ourselves in this position. Why is
Right.
this not just really good for white, David?
Well, probably, but it's complicated enough that I need some time to really answer for sure because it's possible that black could just trade the dark squared bishop off at some point. As I say that, he plays a very odd move.
No,
Um,
this just looks terrible for black,
that
though,
that
because
yeah
your king's on e8 and you're not up any material,
yeah no.
right?
I was thinking like maybe we need to calculate black taking the pawn on d4. Maybe black could play like bishop e7 or g7 and trade this bishop. But no, the fianchettoed knight is terrible. The Mechanics had a match earlier this season where 3 of our 4 players fianchettoed their knights, and we lost all 3 games.
Somebody
So
asks why the pawn wasn't hanging, and I think there was some issues
I'll
because your
show
rook
it
on
real
h8 was
quick for
hanging,
them.
right?
Yeah, it's not that long to calculate actually. You just need to do the calculation. You trade
You
the
just
knights, then the white queen moves, and black is left with the rook and knight hanging.
That's right. So it's just a
So
pure double attack,
yeah.
and thanks to Tien Khan for the question.
Yeah, but that hanging pawn also for me just made me say like, well, maybe things aren't so clear, maybe there's something going on, but all you have to do is actually play out the moves and really ask yourself the question you're asking, and then you see that all right,
Poor
Lenderman's trying to dig
Lenderman,
out.
David. I don't.
Sure.
Lenderman. I feel like Lenderman is not having a good day, David, and it's kind of sad because maybe he's not a morning person. He needs that. He likes to play at night or the afternoon.
Isn't it noon on the East Coast?
That's kind of like a morning for a chess player,
Is that chess
David.
morning? Chess morning?
Yeah, exactly. And meanwhile,
um
the people
yeah.
see the Amsterdam Mosquitoes got the 4-point bye this round, so they're up to a really imposing looking 10 points.
It's
Like that looks like
imposing, but yeah, all
it's
three
not.
of the top teams you see in the standings right now have 4 points extra than everybody else, people. So,
So
but have
don't get
also
too
played one
alarmed
less
if your
match.
team doesn't
So
have it, because they are somebody is going to get that, and that's because look at the Moscow Phoenix. They did forfeit all their games. That's why they have 0 points.
to get your best guess, sometimes you'd have to subtract 2 points instead of 4 because they've played one less match. Anyway, yeah, the standings are just going to be a small source of confusion all day. I can sense. Um, but anyway, looking at this game, Lenderman is still digging. His king's doing something. I don't know how that's going to help. I guess he's playing knight to e8 to challenge the f6 square.
Oh, by the way, the Montclair Sopranos, did they go 0-4 in the first round? And then I think we saw a game
Yeah,
that they lost as well.
they
So
did.
they must have won the 3 that we hadn't been watching as closely.
Yeah,
So not doing quite as badly as they were before.
yeah.
That's good. Although, like we said, this game looks very unpleasant. Oh, there's Lenderman trying to crawl his way out of it, but bringing his king over to the g8.
Just
But
like the
look at
other
the rook
game
on
that we were
h7.
looking at, which had a rook stuck on h6, here we've got a rook stuck on h7. And to me, it suggests the obvious plan of like rook c2 and rook c1. So I was surprised to see Teresa Hakian play rook to d1 in this position a couple moves ago. But now he makes a move towards the queen side. And Lenderman says, choose your pawn or your queen,
That's a
your
good.
your purse or your life.
They both look so tempting, but I like this queen takes f6.
Yeah.
And he's trying to play with the pieces here because he's already got lots of open lines. The
They
open
did
C
both look
file,
good though, right? It was kind of annoying to have to choose.
and he shot. But that's the thing. Like actually, Sarkisian chose extremely quickly. But here's the thing: what are you going to do about just these simple ideas of knight f4 and rook c1? Your rook on h7 is not particularly participating in the action, and it seems like that's devastating. That's
Mm-hmm.
why knight e7 was played because he realized that it's kind of better just to get the knight out of the way right away.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
also protects g6 in case of knight f4, right?
Yeah. Well, if there's one thing that you sometimes have in the French defense, it's time. Time to fix things like the rook on h7, right? Time heals everything, and the black pieces need some healing to coordinate themselves.
Yeah,
And
we need a plan here for white too.
yeah, so
But let's look at
far,
some.
white hasn't done anything incisive at all, right? I mean, maybe Lenderman will have time to play king g7 and rook h8 and do everything.
Well, let's look at another interesting game between Ponomarev and Fressinet, another big battle between the Raptors and the Migraines.
Okay. Ponomarev. Oh, yeah.
Zlatan 56 is Lauren Fresnet's handle.
Yeah, and Fressinet, this is his second match. Last week he went 4-0. So he's bored too, but you got to take him seriously. He also tweeted that the Pro Chess League is pointless without Fressinet. So
Oh, some big egos here in the Pro Chess League,
yeah,
right?
so he's a newcomer, but he thinks it's all about him already. And I guess the first hour of our show was nothing because we weren't watching his game yet.
But here we are. Now we
But here
exist,
we are.
David.
Now we're there.
we, now we, of course, the person who wanted the Armenian Eagles always have a lot of fans. You know, I get it. I get it.
Now he
They're
says
a very
Armenia
spirited
Eagles,
team.
please. We were on the Armenia Eagles this whole time, man. This broadcast is not just for you, although we're happy to hear your opinion.
And also the thing about the Eagles is they are the defending champions. So I get,
Mm-hmm.
why people want to give them a little bit more attention.
They are
So
the
we will come
defending
back to
champion of the
some-
league.
Yeah.
They have that champion quality that when things look close and you're not sure what's going to happen, somehow they eke it out, right? When it's 3 seconds against 3 seconds in some kind of crazy end game, it always falls in their favor. But the Marshalls are the new team that are like that this year. They're the new team where, like, when there's something in the air, it always falls into their hands at the last moment.
Well, what do you say about this position? I mean, it's hard to wrap your mind around. But I gotta like white just because I'm not down any material and my position just like looks more solid.
It's the
Um,
h6 pawn for me, but I have the same conclusion as you that I prefer white.
yeah. Uh, let's take a look again at Vallejo versus MVL. As we left that game some time ago because it looked like it was becoming a little bit more slow battle, even
Yeah.
though we kind of liked MVL.
I was pretty interested in Miranda versus Andraken as well.
Okay.
So
Miranda versus Draken.
let's see. But let me click to the one you're suggesting. Yeah, I think the Andraken one's maybe a little bit more decisive at the moment. We see Vachier and Pawn still maneuvering for the moment. I mean, super interesting. But in the Andraken game, he's conceded a protected pass pawn on c5 to Miranda in return for some messy attempts on the king side. But it seems like Miranda may have like consolidated it. He's low on time though, so he's worrying about stuff. He's definitely worried about what Andraken's up to. To have 1 minute against 5.
And interestingly, it looks like Lenderman is starting to kind of defend. We saw that he started to defend against Samuel or Sayakan,
Yeah.
which is really a key game. As we mentioned, the Sopranos did not get off to a good start.
No.
You also see Raven Stewart just battling.
This looks so tense. I mean, if Black doesn't land a tactic, If black doesn't land a tactic, he's basically bankrupt, right? Down like a protected past c5 pawn in an endgame. He'll have no chance. Queen d7, that's definitely what Miranda wanted. That's what he was aiming at. That'll keep the black queen out of h3. So this is kind of desperate for Andreykin.
Hey guys, I want to give you an announcement that the standings have just changed. In
Yeah.
order to confuse people less, we've decided to give every team that got the bye 2 points instead of 4 points. So their actual points on the standings will more accurately represent how well they're doing. So as you see, the Mosquitoes used to have 10 points for the bye. Now they have 8.
Yeah.
So it'll give you a better sense as we move forward.
Yeah. Be more reasonable for the standings. Also more reasonable if you compare these teams after the standings with other teams in other battle royales, because a lot of these teams, it's all the divisions are mixed together. So if like all the teams in this battle royale got 4 points, that would be quite a haul compared to what other teams would be getting. We've got a rook sack. We've got a rook sacrifice from Andreykin. I told you it was desperate. Had to do something.
Oh, wow, that's exciting. Okay, what do we do? So if king e2, it's mate on the board, David.
Yep. King e2 is mate in 1. There's a bunch of mates possible here. King g2 is mate in 2. Oh no, the queen's covering knight h3.
Yeah, so king g2.
So he could go to g2. He went to g2. If he had gone to g1, the knight f3 would have recovered like approximately a rook. So
do we have anything besides? Do we have anything besides
queen trade? The Marshals got this one.
Yes, that's for sure.
Real boy Jurabek had already won his game. I saw in the background. Jeez, he trapped the black pieces on the back rank. That is disgusting.
Lenderman's game looks like it's going to be exciting.
All right, let's go back to it then.
I think we've seen a piece sacrifice for this rapidly advancing H pawn, but isn't enough.
Tersakian came up with a plan, so to speak, and it was to sack the knight for all the kingside pawns.
Ooh,
wow,
baby.
I like how he followed up with queen g5 and rook f3 to f6 instead of queen g6 check, bringing the rook into great position as well. And now that knight is not looking as good as the h-pawn.
Wait, the h-pawn is worth more than a knight?
I think so. I don't know. I mean, Lenderman spent a couple moves there just trying to get his king out of danger, right? Instead of deploying his pieces to the king side. But how do you stop that h-pawn? How do you stop that h-pawn? Does he even intend to stop the h-pawn?
No, he's trying to gain some counterplay maybe with rook c1 and queen f1, right?
Uh-huh.
How though? How are you even getting rid of your knight here? Or is he gonna just play rook h8 and sack? Wow, that's not gonna be enough.
He's just going for the b pawn. Just the b pawn. Okay, if rook to g8, he has queen b1 check and queen takes h7.
Right,
so
exactly.
That's what he's got going on right now.
Plan.
So,
and it's not that easy to hide our king. We can't hide on h2 because queen takes f2.
Yeah.
We could play king g2 just to start things off.
Yep.
And then I take it your plan is to play queen b1.
Right, or c2. Queen b1 or c2 probably is what he'll follow up with.
But I could play maybe rook g7 then.
Yeah.
Queen c2, maybe rook g7 here.
He did it quickly.
Looking to play queen e6 because obviously if we have a second pass pawn, that would be very helpful to our goal of winning the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just rook g7 here. Or we could also play, obviously there's a lot of candidate moves, so we could also play rook h6. And as I say it, he did it. Rook h6, now we are threatening an h8 queen. And if rook h8, there was queen b7. But instead, the counter-attacking move, rook f8, and now queen f4.
He did not play the passive move that was expected with rook h8. Instead, rook f8. But Tarasahakian was sort of ready for that too.
If queen f4, now rook takes f4, pawn takes f4.
Mm-hmm. And
because
then
h8 is coming.
He can't stop that h-pawn, so he's got to go queen e4 check and hope to keep checking him. But after king g3, queen d3, f3, I think he'll be out of checks. I'll just give you guys a quick variation. Notice that Tarasahakian has 12 seconds, people, so he cannot afford to get surprised by one more resource of Lenderman's.
Well, what about something like trying to take on d4 and then hide the king on a6?
All right, rook h8 got played, And now Tersahakian gets queen f7, and he's got control of the f2 pawn, control of the 7th rank, but he's not. He's got 6 seconds left to like figure this whole thing out, right?
That's tough. That's very tough because we can't play rook takes. We can never play rook takes e6 because our h7 pawn is hanging.
It's a
We're trying
lot
to
of
play queen
pressure.
g7, right? Just a
Yeah.
simple queen g7, and then
Yep.
uh, and then just queen the pawn. So that's the idea.
He needs it to be simple, so he's going for queen g7. Check back and forth from Lenderman. Tersahakian's up to 8 seconds. Yes. So much time. Also going completely crazy right now is MVL versus Leon Beast.
Oh boy.
I mean,
With
MVL is
Vallejo.
Leon Beast, but it looks like he just got his piece trapped and had to trade in 2 for the rook.
That's right, and it looks like now
Oh,
MVL is.
but it's complicated. Then it comes b4. Now what? Queen
But
a4?
queen a4 check, right?
And then trade queens, take e3, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And that's et cetera, et cetera, et cetera is happening. But how can this not be good for black at the end of the day, right?
You
Look
would
at how
think
fast that d pawn is.
here has to come the d pawn now. Can the king deal with him? Doubtful. Doubtful.
No, he's going for counterplay instead. Nice
So he's
idea.
going for
F5.
something.
F5, and now we can't play knight d6 because you can just take on g6, knight f7, pawn f7, and it's over.
Yeah.
So instead, he took with the pawn, g6. Now
What
after
about
g7,
rook h7 here? Rook h7, if bishop f8, rook h8.
good
Maxime
point.
has the advantage of a minute against like 5 seconds.
But if rook h7, just d3, rook h6, no, you have d2, and you can get back in time. So instead, he's just taken on g7 after
Okay.
g7. If we can hold on to these pawns somehow, it could be okay for Vallejo pawns, but that rook on g7 is cutting off the king. Knight d6. We really want to hold on to these pawns, and now the king gets to
Here
come
comes
up.
the king. Oh my goodness. It feels like Fauché could even win this one. But can he hold this pawn?
No, I think this will probably be a draw.
Yeah, it's hard to hold
Let's
it.
go back to oh god. I wanted to go back to Zaven, but
Yeah.
we can also just keep on this one until it ends. Because everything is basically an endgame at this point, except
Zaven's
Grant
got
Ju's
the
crazy
extra
game.
knight. Grant Shu's crazy game. What on earth is that? Is
No,
black
yeah, this is-
perpetualing with a knight while down a queen?
Oh my god, yes. 13 seconds left, and indeed, we've got a crazy perpetual on tap.
Wow. I'm going to look up this game later because to get to this
Yes.
position, something ridiculous must have happened before.
And of course, MVL's now trying to win. He's up the exchange. Can he do it? He's going to try long and hard, that's for sure. And meanwhile, Sam Sevian, in a similar situation, he's got the rook and knight versus a rook, and he's going to keep playing. Why not? Why not, David?
Why not? Well, yeah, I mean the rook and knight don't have great winning chances. I think does MVL have winning chances? What if he Oh no, if he sacks his rook for the knight and wins the b5 pawn, it's a draw. That's a problem. Because he could have played, rook d6 check, rook takes a6, and won the b5 pawn, but the king and pawn ending would still be a draw. So how is he supposed to do anything here? That knight on a6 seems to be a smart defense.
Right, because it's keeping that rook on lockdown. And here we see the move rook f6, giving up the pawn.
Okay, so that should be a draw then.
Yeah, that's right.
Can't.
Although again, Maxime's going to play on for a little while.
Wow.
Why not? And there we have king versus king.
All right. There we have it.
MVL and Vallejo pawns played an incredibly exciting draw, and we have just one game left where Sam Sevian is continuing to play on with the extra knight against the Armenian Eagle.
Yeah. And our standings are starting to become pretty legible at this point. I think with 2 points for the missed matches, the standings are going to be pretty close to what you would expect at the end.
Well, basically that you can tell who's doing well, right?
Yeah,
And don't
exactly.
forget that obviously the Sopranos are going to be getting something from this game because it doesn't look great for them, that 4 points, does it? They're the only team. Sopranos
No.
and Volga are both doing pretty poorly so
Yeah.
far, but nobody's totally out of it, David. With a good match, anyone can kind of get right back into things.
No, no one's running
A
away with
couple good
anything yet.
matches.
It looks like the Marshals had another good match this round, scoring 3-1 probably. So they're sort of on the heels of the Mosquitoes, who had an actual 4-0 and are in first place.
Yeah, somebody who just tuned in asked if the Phoenix are not showing up, and in fact, they just forfeited today, unfortunately. Age of second.
Yeah.
Bordofano says, "Hi, sir. Can we play? Hey, you can sign up as a free agent at the Pro Chess League."
Yeah. Unclear who he wants to play. Maybe somebody in chat, maybe one of us. But any dangers here for Andreassian? Any pitfalls here to watch out for? Because I know people have lost against Rook and Knight before, so it could be
Yeah, what
useful to
was
have
it? Was
some
your
idea what can go
famous
wrong.
Kasparov Polgar game? I think that was Rook and Knight versus Rook, I think, but I think so. I'll have to look that up later, but I'm pretty sure there was a Gary Kasparov Judith Polgar game like that.
So you always want to move your king away from whichever side of the board the white knight goes to. Whenever the knight switches where it is to sort of block checks from behind, like on f4, and he was looking to play knight g6 and trap the king on g7, you always want to move the king away from the knight. So
Gotham Chess says hello, and he says we're not aware of some kind of joke. Maybe you're aware. Oh, apparently I'm very prescient, as apparent Un42 N81 says that the Kasparov Polgar game was a puzzle on Forbes today.
yeah,
I
it
I
looks
think that
like
might have been the one that Polgar actually won, though. I'll have to check it out because Women International History Month is coming up, and I feel like they Forbes would be more likely to publish the historic game that Judith beat Gary, but I could be wrong.
mhm.
I'll take a look at that later.
All
And
right.
here we have it,
So
draw game by the
yeah,
40 move.
drawn. I mean, Saban clearly knew what to do with that. He wasn't getting down to 5 seconds. He was playing it quickly and accurately. Holds the draw, no problem. The Armenia Eagles just get a beak out in front of the Raptors and the Migraines. And yeah, the big score is that 4-0 from the Mosquitoes. That's the difference in the standings so far. Their big 4-0. That's why the Sopranos are down near the bottom and they're at the top. I guess since getting a 4-0, the Sopranos must have scored 2 and 2.5. So they've done well other than that one round. So I guess they've stabilized.
Okay, so
They've
apparently
stabilized.
David Chess 2001 is always writing on everyone's wall. Hi, sir, can we play? And he's
Mm-hmm.
written it on hundreds of pages. Got it. Got it.
Okay.
Okay, and now he's posting. Now he's posting it on ChessBase, something about how his rating went
Sounds
from 1970 to 2400. All right.
sounds annoying.
I don't think I got the high can I play on my wall.
I get it. I got high can I play like all the time. So
I mean, from this particular guy, I do get it.
yeah.
So this round, Montclair Sopranos are going to get the bye.
All right. So they'll get 2 points and maybe get in a couple practice blitz games with each other.
Or maybe just relax. I think this is a good time to get the bye, actually.
Yeah.
Kind of midway through the competition, relax, have a coffee, gear up. As you can see, I keep mentioning coffee, David. I'm kind of obsessed.
Yeah. Have you had any today?
Oh, of course, of
Okay.
course. Otherwise, I'd be like, my head would be on the computer. And so you're starting off with Andrejkin versus the first board for the Armenian Eagles. So I'm sure our many friends of the Eagles are very excited to see us start with this.
Yeah.
The Volga Stormbreakers are doing really poorly, David.
Yep, they are.
They only got 3.5 points. They really gotta make something happen. They don't want to get trashed because remember
Yeah.
I mentioned how tentative their standing was.
Yeah, and they did really well last week, so they needed to like build on that here, but out of the gates slow, and we're already 3 rounds into this thing. Like that's quite a start, right? I mean, three rounds,
right?
3 rounds bad start. They've got 4 rounds left. It means, it's already not looking like they're going to get first place today. They just have to, salvage everything they can get.
Exactly. Exactly. As eighth place, we know they're not going to get, as obviously the team that forfeited will get that. But the points start to go up 3 points for each place. So seventh place is 3 points, sixth place is 6. And then add that to the fact that every point you get gets added to it. And you can see why every point here could really have a devastating or flourishing effect on your final standings in the Pro Chess League and whether you get relegated and whether you make it to the playoffs.
Your brother says that at least they have no chance of falling behind the Moscow Phoenix, who are right behind them in the standings. So they're not going to lose ground against the team that's forfeiting today. But, I mean, they want to score some points and move towards the playoffs, I think, after how well they played last week. So.
And the Delhi Dynamite has only half a point more than them. Mm-hmm. So it's just really tight there. The Moscow Wizards are also not that far ahead. The other 3 teams in the Eastern Division are like way ahead.
Right.
But it's that 4th spot.
Right.
Especially with the Armenian Eagles doing well again today. I think they're almost unreachable.
Right.
So it's all about that 4th spot. Can they get it? And they got it.
Exactly.
They got to start playing better today.
It's the Wizards and the Dynamite that they sort of need to focus on and see themselves as competing with. Absolutely. I mean, I told my guys for the Battle Royale this evening, right? Like, we just need to finish ahead of the Sluggers. Like, whether we're in second and they're in third, or we're in sixth and they're in seventh, like, you need to do better than the team in your division that you're competing with. So. All right. So Andrakin with a closed turn to open Sicilian. And let's see, is there any opening out here that you love? Anything that grabs your fancy? I'm seeing.
There's a lot of exciting openings. I see a Benoni in the game between Anna Sargsyan and Alexei Ivlev.
Yeah.
There's
a second Benoni between Bryakin and Arturs Gabrielian. Do you like the Benoni?
Oh, I think it's a lot of fun. I also am interested in Vallejo Pon's game against Luke Van Wely, just because the Mosquitoes are doing so well.
Right.
Are they going to get that 24 points?
It does make sense to look at the first place team and see how they do it.
Yeah, because this is also a big game with the Raptors debuting such a tough lineup, especially on the first 2 boards. Can this be the downfall of the Mosquitoes? Let's see.
Yeah.
I like this last move by Vallejo, F4.
The New York Marshals point out that we also have a little thing going that we have an incentive to finish ahead of the 2 St. Louis teams tonight. If we do, the Marshals are going to buy dinner for everybody on our team. So
the Marshall Chess Club?
The New York Marshals chess team. Yeah.
Oh, who's going to buy the dinner?
They're going to buy it for the Mechanics if the Mechanics can finish ahead of the St. Louis teams,
Oh, when are you guys going to be in New York, though? Oh, you mean they're going to just like Postmates, send you some money on Postmates?
Maybe when they come to the Final Four in San Francisco.
Ah, okay. Nice. Just make sure you collect that dinner, because I have a lot of experience in poker and the gambling world, David.
Yeah.
You got to collect your bets, because nobody's going to collect them for you but you.
Okay. I could offer some guy half a dinner to go threaten them.
I want my pizza and ice cream.
Yeah. All right.
Those are hard. Those are hard to collect. The small bets are hard to collect. That's why one piece of advice: never make a bet for like $20 or $10 unless you know it's like somebody who actually cares about those amounts of monies. Because if you make a really small bet with someone, they just forget about it.
They just forget about it. All right.
Yeah, so make it big enough that the other guy remembers.
Mm-hmm. They remember their whole life how much money they lost to you.
Whatever that number is, make sure that it's enough that they can afford it, but that they remember it.
Okay.
Like,
all right.
So
some
That's a
betting
different number
advice
for
from a
every.
pro for everybody here. That's an extra thing an extra
Yeah.
bonus here today with the chess.
See, that's what Greg Shahadi says. He says, I always make really small bets, so I never have to pay when I lose.
Oh man,
See? That's
dirty.
what he does.
So you had to learn this stuff from a very young age. Growing up with him, he was always trying to not let you collect on anything.
Okay, now I should also point out you should also not bet an amount that you can't afford to lose. So it's about finding that sweet spot.
Hmm.
Enough that that it matters so that you guys will actually not just joke about it, but not enough that, it's going to hurt you. But
Okay.
anyway, about this position,
Yeah,
Vallejo Pons. Do you
I
like his game here, or
I
are
do.
you feeling black?
I do. I think these positions tend to favor white. He's got sort of control of the tension on the king side with the f4 pawn, possibility of getting his rook in, and yeah, is Greg gonna forget about the 10K if we win the fantasy chess bet?
No, don't worry. I live 2 blocks from him. I'll help you collect, guys.
All right.
Just, just call me up.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of liking it, I mean, I think there's some pressure on the D file, so Van Welly has to defend the D6 pawn. There's potential pressure on the F file. And Van Welly gives up part of his center in order to mix things up. Interesting approach.
Well, otherwise, his position just looks so passive.
It
So,
does look passive.
and Luke Van Wheely is such an active player by nature that I feel like I like this.
The
Let's get some
dream
activity. Now, what do you take here as white? Do you take with the bishop or do you take with the pawn?
pawn for sure. The dream for Van Welly would have been to play knight b8, knight c6, knight d4. But I guess that just wasn't working out. So he goes for e takes f4. And
Pawn takes f4.
That's the
Vallejo
G
agreed
pawn.
with you. And then immediately bishop f6, kind of seizing that a1 h8 diagonal.
yeah. So now, the white queen comes up. The A rook needs to come to the D file or the E file. What can go
Now, we
wrong?
don't have to calculate e5 because e5 there is bishop takes g2, which conveniently also attacks the rook on f1.
Ah,
So bishop takes g2, pawn takes f6, bishop takes f1 would not be good for white.
all right. And now if only I could just sort of sketch a sad face on the board, that would be perfect. All right, so what could go wrong? I guess we could lose the e4 pawn while I'm doing my thing. Like if I play like queen d3 and black plays rook a8, rook e8, and then I bring my rook to d1 or e1 or something, then what could go wrong would be bishop c3, queen c3, bishop e4. I suppose something could go wrong. Something could still go wrong. So rook c1 was played. That means that unfortunately something could go wrong for pawn. So what he's doing is instead of trying to develop this rook, he's going to plan to defend his e4 pawn with his queen and use his rook to recapture on c3 as necessary. Whoa! It's been captured already. Van Welly has something very concrete in mind. He's just going to go knight f6. He's going to attack the e pawn a bunch of times. And with the white bishop on e3, there's no way that white can sustain his center now.
Oh,
Wow.
that's interesting. I like that. I mean, you'd have to, it's kind of a way to punish this move, takes at f4.
Yeah.
So what about e5 now?
I mean, e5 is very playable now. Bishop takes g2, king takes g2, pawn takes e5, just trying to transition to an endgame, right? With then queen d8, rook d8, and bishop takes on c5 in some way.
Yeah, because I don't really like the idea of losing my e-pawn, David, because I think,
Yeah.
then my pawn on f4 really sticks out like a sore thumb.
He's just played
I'm
e5
gonna
like
be
you
wor-
suggest.
So
Yeah.
he did play e5, and it looks like, let's move over to the MVL game, as this game looks like it might be transitioning into an endgame. But the MVL Miranda game,
Okay.
on the other hand, it looks quite exciting.
All right.
With Miranda's king on e1.
All right.
And-
Miranda overperforming as usual for the Marshalls. He's already beaten a 2,700 today, and now he's going to take on a near 2,800.
And what's going on here? So what happens if knight takes a4?
I mean, this is crazy. Miranda's got two heavy pieces doubled on the fourth row, and Vachier is still able to bring a piece to a4. That's weird. Knight takes a4 does look good. On bishop takes a4, knight to b3. exposing all those attacks on the bishop. Isn't that like winning for white?
Yeah.
That's
It
what
looks
you're
winning.
wondering, if it just wins?
I wish
Scratch,
we had
scratch.
time for, if only we had time for bishop takes b3, but rook takes d8, rook takes d8, and the bishop's just hanging.
Look at Miranda's clock. He's got 3 minutes against
Wait,
7.5. Like this early in the game.
and bishop c6 doesn't work because we're going to lose a bishop at the end of the variation.
Knight
So
b3,
after knight
bishop
a4,
c6.
knight takes a4, and knight b3, will he play it? Is it just, it looks like it's just winning for white.
Yeah. He's still thinking about it. What's wrong? I mean, and MVL's would MVL hung a piece this early in the game?
Are we missing something? Maybe after knight, is there an in-between move after knight takes a4? Like, I mean, queen a5 check doesn't help, does it? You just play knight back to c3.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's something illegal about knight c3, but my interface let me play it.
But is this going to be a case of mutual blindness? And now that MVL sees Miranda getting so low on time, he's got to come up with some way to keep the position interesting. Even if he goes down a piece, he's going to keep playing. That's for sure, David.
Yeah.
Knight a4.
I mean, the clock is a little concerning, as the marshals are admitting in chat as well. Like, even if white's winning a piece, if you get under a minute against MVL, like a piece odds might not be enough against this guy. So what? I think Miranda's got to make a choice sometime soon here. I don't see.
You can't just go back to d7 because knight c5. But what about and again?
Well, knight c5. There's queen a5 check.
Oh, so we have to play bishop b5.
Maybe bishop b5, and then MVL could play bishop takes b5, rook d8, which is totally totally playable. I mean, that's the kind of scenario, like, not playable, like it's good.
B4, but though, didn't we have b4 after knight c5, queen a5 check?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, he's played something. Let's see what he's played. He's played queen takes b7 with 1.5 minutes. And he just spent 3.5 minutes on this move and then doesn't take the piece, and now he's low on time.
Oh no! So there was something that
center.
He saw that obviously he calculated knight takes a4 furiously.
Yeah.
Something that he didn't like, and now he's just taking on b7. But boy,
I like the theory. I like the theory that he spent those 3.5 minutes calling his mom to tell her that he was about to beat MVL, and then he's like helping his mom log on to Twitch. Right? He's like, "No, mom, you go to twitch.org/chess." Is that in my Outlook? No, Mom, no. But now he's going to lose, I think, right? I mean, he's got a minute, and MVL, his king's in the center. MVL's got all the pieces out.
No. This can't be. It's too bad. He should have just played knight a4, bishop a4, knight b3. Even if there was something he saw that wasn't that clear, it would have been better than taking the pawn on b7.
Oh,
that's just way too dangerous to play with 1 minute on your clock against the top player in the world, one of the top players in the world.
Yeah.
God.
This just looks like it's just hell with the king in the middle and no time to make the moves. Oh. I broke the chat, Jen. I broke the chat.
I know. People like your jokes so much.
I completely broke it. It's just a string of deleted messages.
Hey,
now they found their emotes.
That's fine.
They gave up on trying to type words.
All right, let's move on to another game. I think he might just go down here.
You don't want to see the king in the center?
Okay, yeah, let's see some more blood.
I normally like seeing kings in the center get taken out, personally, but
no, let's keep it going. So what do you think's gonna happen here?
Something like knight d3 check, bishop d3, queen d3, rook c6, rook b1. This is the kind of stuff I like, see? And then checkmate. That's what I want. Bishop e4 was played instead. What? That's just too confusing. It's just too confusing. Is he just playing rook a8 to a2? Is that satisfying to Maxime?
Maybe. He hasn't moved yet, though. We have Jackie the Swede say, "Greetings from Vienna. My daughter just broke up with her boyfriend. Best thing ever." Best thing ever,
Best.
except for the Battle Royale. As now your daughter is no doubt watching the Battle Royale.
Yeah,
Random information
very random.
added to the chat. Okay, Queen D5 was
Yeah.
Maxime Vachier-Lagrav's choice. Seems
Miranda
good.
was not surprised by it. He played knight d2 instantly. He's gonna have to play a few instant moves this game if he wants to
Rook
salvage
D8
this.
though. Rook D8 looks like it wins on the spot, except there's this Rook C2 move. What about
You want to play knight
C4?
c4, right?
I want to
Yes,
play knight C4.
me too,
Yeah.
Jen. Let's do it. Knight
I know.
c4,
I'm
bishop
like so
c4,
excited.
rook b1. We're gonna play helpful knight to b1 move to get our checkmate. But I think
I
that
know.
king e2
Would make our beautiful move not as
would
nice.
spoil
So that's
all our
why
fun.
but you know, he chose something similar, trying to seize the first rank. He played knight to d3 check.
Yeah, but he could
And
have
then-
done it when the rook was on c1 and white would have had to take. I don't quite follow.
Knight d3 check, and now after king to e2, what happens now?
Does he have rook b1 now?
I was thinking about that. So rook b1.
You and I are on the same wavelength.
Rook b1, knight b1. Is there like knight f4
Knight
check?
f4. King has to come to f3. Oh, there's also just queen takes e4 in that position as well,
Yeah, exactly.
which is just simply good, I think. I mean, even this one with king f3, then you play like f5, maybe no bishop c4. Okay, let's see what he's doing. He must have done something. No, he hasn't yet.
No, he
King's
hasn't.
still on
He's
d2.
still trying to figure out the best way to win here.
Jeez.
By the way, I should point out that game between Loke Van Wheelie and Vejo Hopans was a draw.
Okay.
So that's a big one to watch, as of course the Amsterdam Mosquitoes are so far leading, and certainly they're going to be more likely to continue with that lead if the Marshalls loses this game.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have to look at it.
No, I just clicked there for a second to give people a taste. But back to this Miranda game. I mean, Vachier could look at knight c1, knight f4. This is so complicated. And I'm impressed that Miranda has kept a minute on his clock, because he was at a minute 20 and he had to navigate some weird stuff.
Rook b2 was MBL's choice.
Oh, that's kind of evil, right? Because it's so simple. If he trades rooks, then the knight's attacked. And if the knight moves, he loses the other rook.
Queen c7 played
Queen
pretty quickly by
Pretty
Miranda.
quickly.
Now knight
Good
c1
job.
check.
All right.
Knight c1.
The king can't go to d1, I don't think. Well, actually, it could, because then on rook c2, you play king c2, getting out of that.
Queen d2,
problem.
king d1.
Oh, but then
has
queen
happened.
d2. Okay, so what's going to happen?
We don't have queen d2, right? Because you can just take twice and take on c1. Yeah. So what to do? Do we have knight b3 looks like a
Actually,
pretty
he
move.
does. He could play queen d2. He even could.
What about knight b3 though? Is that a nice move? If pawn b3, we have rook b1 check. No, you just go back to e2.
He could give the queen. I think he can.
There's so many moves.
King c1, rook d1, king up, and then rook second to d2. If the king comes to a3, you've got bishop f8. If the king comes to b3, you've got rook b1. I guess all you're doing is collecting the queen eventually for your rook.
So the whole point of queen c7 is we can't just play queen takes e4 because there's queen takes d8 check, right? So that's basically Miranda's idea to try to save, right?
Yeah.
I don't under. So we also have like something like rook b1 here, right?
Rook to b1, sure. Yeah, setting up those checkmate threats we talked about before.
Yeah, you can't take because you can't take with the knight because it's pinned, and if you take on c1, there's queen takes d2 mate.
Yeah.
So, but rook takes c2 was played.
Rook takes c2 played.
Queen c2 and knight a2, bishop c4.
Look how fast he's playing. Is there knight c3 check here?
Queen e4.
Queen e4 first. Yeah, just queen e4
Queen
first.
e4, queen takes e4, knight c3 wins.
Yep.
But he played knight c3 check first, which
Okay.
also wins, although I think the other way was better, but maybe not. Because maybe he had queen e4, queen a2, and Maxime didn't like that as much.
So he's going to take on d2 twice this way. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Knight c3, queen c3, queen e4. He liked having the queen on c3 more than having the queen on a2 in this line.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Because we don't lose f7.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
this game was intense.
We picked a good game to follow, David, although
Yeah.
now that the dust is cleared, NBL
now it's
is up.
cleanup.
of
Now
a
it's
couple
clean.
minutes,
Yeah.
and he's got all the pawns too.
I'm going to give this one to him and go look somewhere else.
And that was exactly what Miranda
Miranda
did.
agrees. He's like, I'm going to go look somewhere else too. So we've got Briavkin. We've got the Real Boy playing. Oh, that's a huge matchup. Real Boy against Sabag. What's happening? They're
Okay,
both.
let's take a look.
Oh no,
'Cause that's
it's Jurabek who's queening. It's
yeah, he's
Jurabek who's
queening
queening.
first.
So he's winning this endgame.
That's right. So that's a big comeback
He had
there.
one pawn against 3. There must have been a really cool pawn breakthrough. I'm going to go back for a second. King F4 on move 40. It looks like black's going to win, right? They've got the H pawn. The king's coming across the 4th rank. B5, King E4, C5. And you can't stop the C6 breakthrough. Wow, Jurabek with the king and pawn skills.
Nice. Yeah, nice game there. An important win as
they needed that
course,
because it looks like the migraines may have beaten their top 2 boards, looking at how the standings have changed. Right? I mean,
Mosquitoes at 10 points.
It looks like the migraines had 2.5 points on the other games, but the mosquitoes again.
But the Mosquitoes actually still have a game underway also. So
Are
don't forget that
me?
not only do they have 10 points, but Leonard Dak is still playing with the white pieces against Angel Luis Cubas, and he's got a disadvantage. He's down a pawn.
He's down a pawn, yeah.
So
sometimes in positions like this, or often in positions like this, you can blockade the bishop pair. But...
And this is Angel Luis Cubas, who seems to be doing really well today. He's the lower rated player in this game by almost 250 points.
Let's see how he's done so far.
We saw him doing well in another game.
Unfortunately, he's lost all 3 games so far. So that's he's getting close.
Uh-huh.
Is there knight? No, okay.
But this one he'll get done. I mean, he's either going to win or draw, though he's not going to lose this game.
Yeah, he's not going to lose this game. Wait, why didn't the king come to c4?
I have no idea. Bishop
oh my gosh.
D6, I guess.
Now, how's he going to... Oh, his plan is just bishop e7. It's very simple. It's like you trade bishops or I get this. Yeah.
Yeah, bishop e7, and then you just play for c5, right? Yeah, so this should be clean up.
Yeah. Oh, Greg's saying it's faster for me to just read his chats than to check things. Sorry. I'm used to just taking care of everything myself. All right,
okay,
so
we got a huge
looks
update.
like he's got this. Looks like he's got this huge win for him. So that'll keep the Mosquitoes slightly in check, though not by much.
I like that because I mean, obviously, I have nothing against the Mosquitoes. I do have something against Mosquitoes, but not the Mosquitoes.
Not the Mosquitoes.
But I like keeping it close, just so these last couple rounds are going to be very tension-filled, right?
Yeah.
Who gets the big 24 point?
So now I'm checking out Gabrielian, Artur Gabrielian, trying to convert a queen endgame against Briakin. Never easy to convert a queen endgame.
No, because there's always so many checks.
But these pawns of his, are close. All right.
Okay, wait. So what's going on here?
He could queen. It's like the last ditch perpetual attempting from.
Yeah,
from
that's.
White.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with queens. Indeed, he did make a queen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his king should be able to escape to the queen side here and wrap this one up.
And that'll be the last game. As let's take a look at the standings as we see this game might go on a few more.
So that'll give
more seconds.
That'll give a point to the Eagles, and things are so close that right now it looks like they're in 5th place. But when they win this game, they'll be in 2nd place, tied with the Marshalls.
Tied with the Marshalls, that's right.
Yeah.
As the Volga Stormbringers are still going to be in 2nd to last, and the Sopranos really need a boost to get into those higher spots, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're only a point and a half behind the Raptors, so it's not like they're out of it.
No, they're not out.
They scored
of it.
another 2-2 this round. They scored another 2-2 this round. So they are scoring, they're consistently scoring some points.
I think it was all about that first round where they did really terribly. It's hard to recover from
but
that.
But after an 0-4, they need some good rounds too, yeah.
Loose Cannon 1 says, Eagles are champs until someone knocks them off. Respect. That's right. The defending champions.
Yep.
The Armenian Eagles.
That is true. That is true. You always have to take the champions seriously, even if, like, even if they weren't at the top of the standings in the regular season, you would want to take them very seriously in the playoffs. As it is, they've been consistently in second place behind the Tbilisi Gentlemen this year.
For those of you who are just tuning in, we are midway through the Battle Royale here at the Pro Chess League, the first of 2 Battle Royales today. The Battle Royale is an exciting format that we have every few weeks at the Pro Chess League. And the way it works is it's a round robin between all of the board 1s that are playing that particular Battle Royale, all of the board 2s, 3s, and 4s. And you're competing not only for individual points, but for bonus points based on how many points your team gets. So the big number is if you get first, you get 24 extra points. And so this is a really big shakeup for the standings, as last place gets 0 bonus points.
Yeah.
Now, in this case, we had a forfeit from Moscow Phoenix. So we are not going to have anybody except for them get 0 points. We know that.
Yeah. Wow. So
Still,
as somebody pointed out, the Mosquitoes have gone 2-2 every match except for that 4-0. So they actually, like, that 1-4-0 was enough that they haven't even had to win another match, and they're in first place halfway through.
I feel like we might
Just
be having
coasting
our
on
like
that.
2-minute break, because it seems like the games are
The games didn't
restarting a little
instantly
slower
start
than
like
normal.
every other time. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
nice.
I'm gonna be. I'll be right back. Okay.
All right. We'll wait for you. Yeah, so just one match win, 4-0, and then you just put up a bunch of 2-2s and finish basically at the top of the standings in this format. I mean, it's not bad. Yes, if you chose Phoenix players for your fantasy team, you are in a sad situation like I was in last week when I also picked somebody who didn't play. So far, everybody in chat, who do you expect to win after seeing 4 out of 7 rounds? Not who do you root for, okay? I may be rooting for one team and think some other team's going to win. Tell me who you think is going to win based on the results you see so far. So the Mosquitoes 1 point ahead of the Marshals and the Eagles, and then another half point ahead of the Migs. I mean, the Raptors are within 2 points. There are 4 teams within 1 match victory of passing the Mosquitoes. We got one person saying the Marshals, one Barcelona. And we've got Marshals versus Armenia will decide it probably. And someone still thinks that Barcelona Raptors could win the match. Eagles,
Hello.
Marseille, Marshals. Hey, we're guessing with the information we have from the first 4 rounds who's going to win this Battle Royale in the end, because we've got 5 teams that are within 2 points. So, in one single round, the Raptors could pass the Mosquitoes.
Yeah, we got a lot of votes for Barcelona. I
Got a
see
fair number
that.
of votes for Barcelona, yeah.
It is like one of the best cities in the world, isn't it?
And their board 4 did just win a game, and that's their weak link. Like, if he can win a couple games or draw a couple games, that's like enough for them.
The New York Marshals are voting against themselves. I would bet on yourselves. You're still doing pretty well.
They said that their match against the Eagles in the last round would determine it.
Yeah. That seems like a good bet. Although, what about the Mosquitoes? They think that the Mosquitoes are going to lose some ground in these next couple rounds?
Apparently, yeah. All right, Leon Beast is in action against, and Fressinet is in action again. Étoile Géniale, thinking about the first move, or just, trying to rush back from the coffee break. Oh, it's the Marshals versus the Mosquitoes. That's a big matchup for who's going to win. You guys may have a better idea of who's going to come out in first after you see this match. Azarov and Spielman.
I know Armenian fans are being like, "Hey, this match doesn't really decide anything."
Yeah.
Of course, I guess if you're the Mosquitoes, not the Mosquitoes, if you're the Eagles, you kind of want this game to be maybe about 2-2, right?
Somewhere around
You don't
2-2 is ideal, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want anyone to take a big lead.
Every time your rivals play each other, you want like 2-2. I guess 2.5 for New York would be okay also, because then New York and Amsterdam would balance out at about 11.5. So 2 or 2.5 would be perfect for the Eagles there.
See a
All
big
right.
game between an MVL and Andraken.
Yeah. We've
And
got a basically like a Philidor version of a Pierce, or a Pierce version of a Philidor out of Andraken. I've definitely seen him play the Pierce before. And I think getting in the move b5 is a small accomplishment for black. If you can do that early without a problem. So Andraken's opening looks okay so far. And MVL's bringing his knight to the king side. So on g3, pretty much all it can do is sack itself on f5, right?
yeah, that's what the only thing that a knight on G3 is good for.
I
And
think.
I like Sevillon's game against Vallejo Pons. That looks kind of exciting
Mm-hmm.
as we see Sevillon get castles in very quickly and Vallejo Pons potentially on the back foot.
Wow, and c4, sort of a pseudo pawn sack, but probably not a real pawn sack because of some queen a4 check tactic. If pawn takes c4, Sevillon was probably just going to take back with his bishop. And pawn's answers with c5, and Sevillon comes forward. Look at that knight on f5. This is intense. I mean, Sevillon means
Hello to
business here.
Menke. Apparently,
Oh,
wait, what
Pawn's got him to
happened?
retreat. Pawn's managed to get him to retreat with g6. I thought he was going to play like rook e1 or something and say, my knight's here to stay. I'm here to kill this round, but he actually stepped back.
Yeah. That said, how quickly can he develop here? Because if you play bishop g7 and I take and then play like even just I'm just wondering if I play like queen f3 and bishop g5, it seems like you might have some trouble getting developed quickly.
Something like this, maybe. Queen on f3, bishop on g5. But the queen on f3 is being looked at by the bishop on b7. That's sometimes awkward.
Yeah, maybe that's not the best line. I'm just looking for something that concretely takes advantage of the fact that you're not castled quickly.
Right.
I would really love to get in e5 somehow to take
Right.
advantage of that.
So, I mean, if white goes bishop f4, which would be, you know, a principled continuation, then black could consider either bishop b2, bishop d6, bishop a1, or they could just play bishop e5. Very solid, try and just block things.
Just knight c3 was played, which seems like a nice move because anything you do with the b pawn, we can play bishop a4 check, which is going to be really annoying with your king in the center, right?
Yeah, and maybe he's trying to threaten to win a pawn on b5. Like, if you won't take on c4, eventually I will take on b5.
That's right. And, you can't defend it with the queen because I would still be able to play knight b5, queen b5 would lose to bishop a4. So queen d7 doesn't suffice.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's right. Or queen b6, right? We just get to take.
So he just traded it off. And now we would expect to see white. Well, normally you expect to see white open the A file, but here maybe queen b3 puts that pressure on b5 that white wants.
I think so, because if queen b3, b4, the thing about it now is that after b4, queen a4, there is queen d7.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry.
So maybe queen b3, b4, keeping it closed, but then this move a3 that you just pointed out looks kind of nice.
It seems like that's what white wants to do right now is open something, and what black wants to do right now is close things. So that all makes sense.
Which is interesting because usually with the two bishops, you want to keep things open. But in this case, the presence of your bishop is overweighted by the fact that your king's still on e8. So open lines are going to kill you. But it just goes to show you how, like, you have these general principles, and sometimes they're in conflict with each other. And chess is a very concrete game.
Yeah.
So knight takes b3. Sevillon's still deciding whether to take back with the queen or the pawn. So maybe we can take a look at another game.
Yeah, that's quite a think about which way to take. Okay, and he did pick the queen way.
Yeah, that seemed like the right choice considering the situation.
Wow.
Even though, yes, positionally, I like taking with the pawn.
The Vachier game developed pretty quickly here, and
let's go back to that.
He cracked a pawn on b5 here. I I guess he sacked his e pawn in order to get the b5 pawn. Well, that's interesting. And then rook a1, knight c5. So now he takes there. I mean, Andreykin seems to be like super well placed in the center after capturing the e4 pawn, as one normally is. As one normally is. If one captures on e4, one's well placed in the center. I think Andreykin's done well this opening.
And then rook to d1 played.
Yeah. I guess MVL is going to try and make a big deal about the pawn on d6, right? He's going to be like, don't you forget this pawn. It's a real problem. Andreykin wants to defend his d6 pawn by putting a knight on d3. Yeah, so the knight could come to d3 at some point. Then on b3, you can always play d5. I think it looks pretty decent for Andreykin. How are their teammates doing? Frolyanov and Fressinet, the battle of froofy people. Looks like a declined Benko. Looks slightly good for white, maybe, this fake Benko. What do you think?
Yeah, it looks a little artificial for black, right? Like the harmony seems a little strange. Of course, bishop d3 is a threat, but it's really easy met by this move queen b2 check either before or after. And I'm a little worried that after king g8, I have knight g4 just running mate in one. Always a bad sign. Of course, you could play f6, but now here he comes with f4. And
Frolyanov wants to crack this thing.
Yeah. Like
Wow.
the harmony here for black and their pieces is just not there.
Yeah, I think you and Frolyanov both picked up on something that I wasn't thinking about quite properly. I mean, this knight on b7 is bad, and like the queen is kind of stuck in a weird spot. So he's trying to just crack things right away with e5. I would have thought that after queen a6, my bishop on g2 is not that great. My first thought would be play bishop f1, trade the bishop to deal with d3, right? And then put the knight on c4 and sort of play positionally. But if it's a momentary like harmony problem for black, then actually it makes more sense to get frisky for white. And queen b2 f4 and trying to crack with e5. I like it. So Fressinet's trying to find a square for his knight on c5. That could work out for him. He wants to make it more of a real Benko. He wants to make it more of a real Benko. Get that knight to c5. Make white regret pushing. Well, white's pushed. He's got to keep pushing, right? I mean, there's no time to regret. If you regret and let black develop the knight to c5, pressure the b file, pressure the e pawn, I think you just have to play e5. You got to do what you came to do. The real Greco points out positional play is lame play. Not just because I came up with it this time, but always, I guess.
Oh, you gotta have positional play to checkmate your opponent. It's hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Those good moves set you up for good tactics, right?
Yeah. Queen.
And instead of e5 right away, queen d4 was played.
Interesting.
That's a beautiful square for the queen, isn't it?
It is a very nice square.
But what do you do on? I was thinking.
On queen b6, you trade and then just take that pawn on c4.
Right. So I'm trying to find a good move for black here, actually. It's kind of hard.
So black could play something like... He did play
queen b6.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he's thinking at least he gets a Benko then, right? Some kind of a Benko.
Yeah, queen b6. Did you take him with the pawn or the knight? You're taking with the pawn to get a tempo, huh? But what happens with the bishop now? Knight c5 required.
He takes with the pawn because if the knight got traded off for that bishop's like one of black's few problems, actually.
Yeah, it still doesn't have any squares, right? But
Right.
luckily that knight on c5 is just such a rock
I mean, it
that it's able to hold
almost
it
sort of
down.
has the e4 square now. This knight is really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I could play knight g4. He's just
Hmm.
playing e5, just cracking things open right away
Yeah.
because he didn't want to lose that pawn, obviously.
Yeah.
And now, but what if
Black
you
could
just
even
take
Black
twice?
could even take twice, right? Because then when the
Yeah,
knight moves, you play e5, e4.
right. Or you just take on c4. Both need to be calculated because if takes twice and knight g4, if takes twice and then knight g4, e4, knight e5, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's what happened. And I think
That's what's happening.
now there's a big decision for black though. Do you take on c4 or do you play e4 like you suggested? E4 said knight e5.
Yeah.
Okay, that happened e4.
Yeah. So
And now
now
I'm pretty
on
sure.
knight e5, which
Oh,
he
he's
didn't
played knight
do.
f2 instead.
But I mean, it's somewhat similar for black that what I'm going to want to do is probably defend my e pawn. So that on knight d3, I could take with my e pawn. Oh, but this way, white can take on e4, whereas with knight e5, you only had the one option to take on d3. So, yeah, so this attacks both. That makes sense. So the extra option for black this way is that they could take on c4 or they could sack the exchange. I am partial to exchange sacrifices. May I play rook f2, king f2, rook a8? Come on, Fressine, the world's watching. This is the real Pro Chess League now that you're here. What have you got for us?
Yeah, rook
Mm-hmm.
f2, king f2, rook a8, rook d2.
Yeah, and then I want to play bishop c4 in that position, maybe. I was hoping I'd have some kind of tactic, but it looks like I don't quite.
Will he do it? Let's take a look at some other games. I'm keeping my eye on Van Whaley versus Miranda.
Okay.
Leon, let's take a look at MVL versus Andrekin again.
Okay. Ooh, it's degenerated. It's
Exactly.
degenerated into like wild striking at the opponent's kings. Okay. Okay. I see how it is. Somebody wants to get checkmated.
You got to be careful, right? You can't play rook d8 because then there's queen a1, check king g2, queen h1, and block got there first. Kind of sneaks up on you, right? Because you're not used
Yeah.
to seeing that rook on h3.
Yeah, no. He's bizarrely close to your king.
So wait, is this just good for MVL then? What's going on? Or can we just the rook on d1 does a good job defending if we don't release it. So he's
If we
just playing
don't
queen
go for
e5.
rook d8.
Still can't go rook d8, but takes an h5.
Takes on
Allows rook
h5.
takes h5.
Rook takes h5.
And then we have a new avenue for the rook on g5 as
Yeah.
well that you have to worry about.
And the rook's pretty good there.
So queen
Drawn.
e7 was played,
Yeah.
and
That is
it looks
drawn.
like the game was just drawn. Okay,
We're
let's move
denied
on.
our checkmate dreams.
I
Such,
know, I know. Okay,
such
how about Loke
sadness.
Van Wheelie versus Miranda?
Yeah. Looks promising for Van Willy at the moment. This knight on b8 is no star.
That's right, it does look promising.
And
You
Miranda's
can't play
down.
queen d8 because there's rook e8 check. Always looking for those tactics. So
Miranda's
how do you deal with this bishop getting attacked?
Miranda's down the same 1.5 to 5.5 minutes.
No, this looks good for the Mosquitoes, who are the top team right now.
Um,
Of course, there's also other games going on in the Marshalls versus the Mosquitoes, including a game that looks
yeah.
we're not going to go to it, but a game that looks kind of equal against Rolyk and Urebek on board 3,
Mm-hmm.
and then Azra versus Spellman, which we looked at earlier. That one looks pretty exciting as well.
Yeah.
So, and then finally, there's one game. There's one other game I'm missing. Grant
Yeah.
Ju versus Leonard Dak as well.
And Frolyanov is has gotten through on the e-file against Fressinet. So he's recovered the pawn that he sacked and maintains a pleasant position for white.
By the way, Grant Ju is up 6 minutes on his opponent Leonard Deck. So that's looking good for the Marshalls just based on the clock alone. As for the position, I mean, it's something that we'll definitely look at later. I think white's a little better. So
yeah, if white can grab this pawn on h7, then he's up a pawn for the moment, but there will be counterplay with knight c4 to b2 maybe. So
yeah, he does have counterplay, but look at that
clock.
Oh,
now there's rook d5. Oh
no.
He just had rook d5 winning there after king g7, right? I mean,
well, you could take on h7, right?
And then rook a5.
But then rook a5, yeah.
Take everything.
That's right. You would take more than the other guy.
Yeah.
2 for the price of 1.
2 for the price of 1 is a good deal. He was just so happy with that pawn he got, right? He's like, I got the pawn. Let's get out.
I think we've seen that from Grant Ju in another game where he was like, he was starting to win and then like he missed like the maiden one and it didn't really matter because he won anyway, but in the future it could matter.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. I was thinking like this guy's like the MVP. He's the god of the fourth board, but he is missing some details here and there, but he still, if he wins every game, I guess it doesn't matter. I guess that's how you stay 6 minutes up on the clock. You just play like safe, quick moves, but you're not going to notice everything playing at that speed.
Exactly. You're not going to be a perfectionist when you're up 5 minutes on your opponent.
Yeah.
As King Loke
won
that game where he seemed like he was in big trouble. So the Mosquitoes get a point. If the Grant Ju does win, as we expect, that'll be even Steven.
Oh gosh, it was such an easy win too. I mean, when the bishop ran away from f6, he just had bishop g4. Just, I mean, look at that diagonal. The knight on b8 is one problem, but I mean, the rooks are just lined up. If f5, then knight anywhere wins the game. You know, knight b6, knight e7, knight f6, whatever. So rook d5, queen d5, and he resigned. He's losing another piece too, right? The rook or bishop. Yeah, it must have just been completely lost. I mean, he spent all the time he had. There was no way to get out of it.
And then let's take a look at Jurabek versus Liam Vrolik, as it looks like Liam might have just made a move that shakes things up a little bit. He's yet to recapture his piece here.
Right. This was weird. I'm going to go back one move so people can understand what's happening. White sacked the knight on a5 for a pawn, then follows up with b4, and basically becomes a very fancy trade into an equalish position. I'm surprised to see Jurabek trading his knight for the bishop.
But this one's probably going to be a draw now, I would say. But you think knight d5 stronger?
Honestly, yeah. Honestly, I think he introduced a small danger of white playing like b6, queen c5, queen c7. Is that not?
Yeah, a small danger indeed. You're right.
And with the pawn on this square, white can still put his queen on, c6 or d6 or whatever, right? And you need to hold that, and then h4, h5 to poke, and then bring the king up somewhere. Whereas if he kept the knight was great.
But let's take a look at Azarov Spielman, because that's the last game to go in this match, as this one is still likely to be drawn.
All right. Azarov Spielman.
But Azarov Spielman looks like it's still quite rich here with this pawn on d6.
Yeah, that's a pretty serious pawn.
Pretty serious pawn, but if somehow that queen can enter the attack, this could actually be really good for black.
Right. I mean, black would want to play a move like f4, keeping the tension, but then bishop e4 check might be too strong.
Yeah, that's right. And so he's played knight takes f3, but is that a good move? I don't know. That knight looks so strong. The idea, I guess, is after king f3, then g4 and f4.
I think he's going to play queen e8 check here before he recaptures. Oh, no. If queen e8, then queen f7. Force the queen trade and get to the d pawn in time. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he'll play king f3, and then maybe we'll see g4 followed by f4.
But what about queen e8 check, queen f7, pawn to d7?
Oh, okay. Interesting idea.
Doesn't that win for white? I mean, yeah. Queen
so
e8.
If that's the case, then after queen e8 check, we have to play king g7 instead.
The Eagles must have scored a lot of points. I see them surging up the standings while we're not watching their games. Queen e8 check. And then if the king moves.
And then king g7, d7, right?
d7.
Yeah. Well, queen g8 was played instead, and then king h5.
G8, king h5.
Queen e8 check now.
Yeah, if king g4, h3 is mate. This is over.
Nice.
White wins. This is over. Azarov did it for the Marshalls here. Oh my goodness. Oh, Armenia played Moscow. That's why they suddenly got 2 points. Isn't that mate in one?
And then we have H3 mate. That's a beautiful checkmate on the board.
Oh my goodness, Azarov. I think this guy's got a lot of points, but if I click to his profile to see it, Greg's just going to type it in chat and tell me I shouldn't have wasted my time. So,
Look
Azarov,
at that.
when we've seen him play today, I think he's been scoring. So,
Of course, Armenia played Moscow, David. Don't you think Armenia Eagles legions of fans would have been screaming in the chat if we weren't
would have
looking
been
at
there
their
with
games?
their pitchforks by now if we didn't look at their games.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably mad that we didn't look at like the games against the Moscow Phoenix, the forfeit win.
They're like, this round was pointless. We didn't see anything here. Oh, Jurabek's found a good defense, I think. I mean, he's down to 16 seconds, so he had to work to find it. But by bringing his king into the middle of the board, he can handle queen c6 with just a queen trade now. So good.
Azarov has 2 out of 4.
Good
Greg
centralization.
report.
2 out of 4. All right, so he won when I watched and not when I didn't watch.
Sevian versus Vallejo still going on. Alex Lenderman versus Ponomarev.
Yep.
With Alexander.
Alexander with the extra knight.
Extra knight, that's right. Alexander
About
had a
to-
slow start today.
About to upset a champion. Well, that's what the Sopranos need, although in round 5 it might be too late.
Well, every point counts.
Every
Because don't
point
forget,
counts. It's never too late to score a point. That's right. Don't let me say
because
that.
it's not just the bonus points, it's also your points, right? And look at this, Raven Stewart. Is he winning as well? 2. You know what's better than 1 point for the Sopranos?
Yeah.
2 points. Look at these knights in the game
my
between Raven
goodness.
Stewart and Carlos Diaz Camalongo.
Wow. There's
how does
a
winning not
recipe
happen?
for checkmate somewhere in there.
Queen F7 check he started with, King H8.
Yep. And then bring
Queen
the other
H5
knight to
check.
F7
Other
to
knight.
checkmate on H8.
Nice idea. That was it. You saw the recipe and it was there.
Yeah.
Oh boy. The Sopranos making a huge rebound potentially in this round.
Wait,
as
and the
they
other
just-
game just finished before I could click on it between Konevets
Konovitz won
and
against Vallejo.
Konevets won?
I don't know how.
Well,
Sam
then
Sevian.
they're basically like sweeping this team this round. Well, that'll get them
Yeah.
back into the
Oh my
Royale
God.
battle thingy.
That's a strong team to sweep, baby.
That's an unreal result. Wow. Knight F6. Look at those knights doing their work. Now the next guy falls. The bishop on D7.
Oh my God! And this is going to leapfrog the Sopranos over the Raptors if Stewart wins this game,
He's definitely winning this game.
and they're going to be only half a point behind the Marseille Migraines. And the Sopranos are 100% back in it. Raven Stewart won by
Wow.
resignation. The Sopranos are going to go to 9.5 ahead of the Raptors and within creeping distance of pretty much everyone, except maybe the Mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are still really, really doing very well.
Still a point ahead. Still within striking distance for the Marshals and the Eagles. So how did that match go between the Marshals and the Mosquitoes? It must have finished 2-2 since they're still exactly 1 point behind them.
It did finish 2-2. It was all decisive games, I think, though, right?
So the standings did not change at the top 3 spots, but where the standings changed were the Sopranos just clubbing the Raptors and taking their spot.
That's right. Now it's super tight. The only team that seems like they're going to finish in very good standing is the Mosquitoes, and the Volga unlikely to finish well, but everything else is completely in doubt, David.
So the Marshals, right, we saw Miranda lose to King Loic, which was compensated with Azarov's nice win. Grant Shu. So what happened in that queen ending that we were watching? That's the other one I wonder about.
The Queen End game.
He lost the Queen ending. So Jurabek lost the Queen ending because Grant Shu was winning easily, it seemed, right? So that meant that Jurabek lost his Queen ending, which means
right. Yeah.
Which means if he hadn't traded his knight for that bishop on B5, they could be tied with the Mosquitoes at 11.5 in the standings. That was
good point. And I mean, you picked up on that immediately, David. That seemed like an obvious. It seemed like didn't seem like an obvious move. I mean, knight D5 looked more obvious.
Yeah.
But it seemed like a move when you had less time that you might play it just to simplify, but that it actually your desire to simplify just caused you problems, right?
Yeah. And in fact, I mean, in addition to knight D5, another move would have been maybe queen E5. defending the knight on c3 and keeping it on that square. But I think that's the moment where he put himself into some trouble. I mean, perhaps with like great play, that endgame could be drawn. I mean, it's an equal material endgame. No majority, no pass pawn, no nothing. But it was just like, it's a position that's a little bit hard to play, and he had under a minute and eventually somehow got tricked out of his draw. Let's see. Around move 60, he still had the shape that he wanted. Oh, and then he put the king on f6 instead of e6 because of queen a2 check. So now he needed to come right back to e6, but instead he made a queen move. And that allowed queen d8, picking up the b pawn. And there now, this kind of endgame's really tough now. Huh. So that's how he lost it. I mean, could he have... Was it as simple to still draw it as to just play king e6 here? King e6 here, maybe queen e8 check. King... Maybe it's okay as long as his queen's covering these two pawns. Yeah. So the losing move was probably that queen c4 move. On move 61. But, I mean, he had 15 seconds and had to play 20 moves in that endgame.
Huge implications here for the Amsterdam Mosquitoes, who had just a small margin of fourth place over the Can Blitz streams, right? It was 87 to 88 and a half, but looks like they're going to actually take a really nicer position and, potentially even go over the Barcelona Raptors, right? Who have 96 points in the Central Division.
Yeah.
But
the Raptors only have 3 points less than them in the standings right now, but if they finish like this in the Battle Royale, the Mosquitoes will get like 20 points more than them because of the bonus points.
Exactly. So that loss of the Raptors of the Pranos is really bad for Barcelona, as they're going to find themselves in, not a great position. These next few rounds are going to be really important, though, because as you said, David, the race is so tight that 1 point in the standings could mean over a dozen points and bonus points.
Yeah, that's going to be insane. If this Battle Royale stays this tight till the end, I mean, we've had so many 2-2 matches individually, right? Round after round, team after team. If it stays this tight and the difference between like first and sixth place is like 2.5, 3 points, which is going to be worth 20, that's going to be crazy.
As we're getting ready for the next round to start, I think there was another quick break that we missed because I think that we haven't seen the Sopranos play the Marshals yet, and I believe that's the next round.
Okay. We know that the Marshals' final round is against the Eagles. I like seeing the Marshals and the Mosquitoes fans, cheering in the chat about that last close match between them, 2-2.
Greg pointing out that Barcelona can only do so much because they play Moscow the final round. And remember that Moscow, Phoenix,
for sure.
So they're going to get 2 points only for that.
So this is the round where they need to score 3.
So that's actually an interesting point. In a way, I think playing them in the end is not ideal because you don't know exactly what you need, David. Yeah. I mean, we had no way to know that it was going to be so close.
Yeah.
But now that we see it, it's unfortunate for the Raptors that they get the bye in the end.
All right. Well, we know, the Marseille MiGs know what they need to do here against the Mosquitoes. If they beat them 3-1, they can tie them in the standings. So I would say the goal here is to score 3-1 for the MiGs, see where the Marshals and the Eagles end up, and then see what kind of a score they need in the last round against someone else. But if they don't make up ground on the Mosquitoes, they're not going to, count on passing them in the last round. So we got Vachier here against Benwelli.
It's so tight as all the games are starting, David. I can imagine other Battle Royales, we can maybe start to focus on some key points, but actually every single match is completely relevant here, right?
Yeah, having cast a Battle Royale and watched like 3 of them, normally it's a little more clear that there's like 2 to 3 teams that are in the lead. I think the last time the Eagles played, they played against the Gentlemen in the last round, and it was like whichever team won that match would win the battle royale.
But look at this, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave going for an early endgame against Luke Van Bailey, knowing that
Yeah,
really the win is going to be really important here. So I don't think this endgame means anything about his ambitions. He knows that he has to be ambitious in this match
yeah. I'm
because
sure. I'm
the
sure he's
migraines.
planning to be ambitious. H takes G3. It always creates a nice little advantage into the end game. I think even with the rook on the H file, the G pawn with a little bit more influence on the game. So, if Bishop B4, what's he gonna play? Bishop E5, Knight to D7. I wonder how he would answer Bishop to B4 here. Honestly.
I'm just taking a quick look at all the games to just kind of get a sense of what's going to be the most exciting. Um,
Bishop b4 would really threaten like e4. It would threaten d4. It would threaten maybe to double pawns as a last resort. He would really need a good answer for white.
We've got
I
the
mean,
last
Maxime's played
round.
so fast that this strikes me as opening theory. But I don't see how to answer Bishop b4 myself. Like I don't know how to get a good position for white after Bishop b4.
Let's move over to the tri-state game
Alrighty.
of Jurabek versus Sturt.
Okay.
Raven Sturt, I am for the Sopranos.
Yeah. I always root for Real Boy because of his game at the beginning of the season in
Oh
the
yeah.
exchange Caro against Ehrenberg. So I always root for him. Oh, this is an opening variation, a very old school four knights game with the classic three pawns on the queen side against the A pawn and the D and C pawns. Always love to learn something more about this position.
Sturt points out, New York Marshals points out that this is treasonous because Sturt works at the Marshall Chess Club. Uh-oh.
So
Don't
there
worry,
could be
I'm
some
pretty sure that if he's on the Sopranos, he has no allegiance right now to the Marshals. After the
yeah.
game, maybe.
Hashtag fired. Wow.
You can't do that on Twitch. People talk
Rough.
about getting dumped on, text message or email.
Right.
You
Get
know,
fired on a Twitch
I
stream. Ugh.
that would be a bad way to get fired.
Yeah.
Although I'm guessing it's happened before. Everything has happened before, right?
By now, yeah, Twitch has been around long enough. Someone must have been fired.
That people have done something stupid enough that they got fired live on stream. No way, no doubt that that's happened before.
Yeah. I mean, all it has to be is your job is not streaming and you're streaming and your boss walks in and is like, why are you streaming video games at work?
Well, the Armenia Eagles, we got a request for them from our sleepless GM as we see that the Armenian Eagles are playing the Barcelona Raptors, which will technically be the last chess that the Raptors get to play as they get that last point by.
Oh, go sorry. Go
We
ahead.
got Vallejo versus Andreacian,
Okay.
and it looks like a pretty standard opening here. Some kind of Benoni, some kind of standardish Benoni, King's Indian type style thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, white has a little bit more space, but this also seems totally fine for black.
Yeah. Clicking around. Basically, GM Sleepless needs to get a second person to second his request for their Armenia Eagles. It doesn't count as like 100 fans if it's one guy talking 100 times.
Well, Sakian versus Ponomariev is also looking very exciting, actually. So I feel like that's a request that I can totally
Ooh.
feel.
That's us seconding the request, huh?
Exactly. Third
Oh,
is
man.
what on
Rook
earth
the
is going on
seventh
here,
rank.
David? The material is actually still equal, but
Mm-hmm.
this rook on c7 can move anywhere and give a discovery. I
Mm-hmm.
don't see a really great one at the moment. Like, it would be great to play rook d7 if you could take with something and we could play queen a4 check or capture a queen, but rook d7, queen d7 just leads to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Rook b7, it looks like you can just play queen c8. and the
Mm-hmm.
best you'll be able to get there is a perpetual.
Yeah, in fact, they did that whole game at some point before.
Oh, we're coming into a potential perpetual. I see what you're
They've
saying.
gone back and forth once before the queen was on d4 and bishop on a3.
Right, but White could consider doing that again. I think, although the position's changed a little bit because now you can't play bishop f2, but you could still play g3, and I think it would work out to be the same. You'd have to go back to defend. But of
Yeah.
course, Samvel for the Armenian Eagles is looking for something better,
Yeah.
and I don't
Yeah.
blame him. But what? What happens if we just castle here?
Yeah, I mean, just castling is a pretty logical option at any point. If you want something spicier, maybe f5. Maybe f5, e takes f5, e6.
Well, there's also that pawn hanging on d5. That looks nasty. I think after
Oh, yeah.
f5,
If pawn takes f5, you think just knight d5 would be good enough for white, probably.
yeah, I don't know if you, I have a feeling after f5 you can't take back on f5. I'm
Okay.
feeling like if you play f5, you might have to castle.
But then white's idea is just get this pawn to f6, and black must be in somewhat bad shape there.
Yeah, that's true. I see what you're
He's
saying.
never going to be able to fight that pawn. He's never going to get his bishop into the action. He would have to. I don't know what he would have to do there, but it doesn't look good.
Well, in the game itself, rook b7 was played.
Okay. That could make all our speculation very boring if they go queen c8, rook c7, queen d8, rook b7. After thinking about it for like 5 minutes, I want to see what happens with Vachier-Lagrave.
Maybe he was thinking just like bishop b2 type move for blacks coming in, just trying to keep pressure in the position. And yeah, it looks like there might be a draw of perpetual on that, even though it looked like it was an explosive game, though.
Mm-hmm.
But let's move over to MVL Luke Van Wheelie. Indeed, is this one so critical for our standing?
I'm just recapping some moves for everybody to help them orient to what's going on by clicking through some of the moves that were played, so we can see that there was a little push and pull on the A file, and I guess Vachier has left the A5 pawn as a potential weakness. And Van Welly's gained a lot of space, but his pawns are kind of like a little bit stuck, right? Like blockaded, a little bit targeted. So what is next for Van Welly? Oh, we've got the bad knight fianchetto on b2. Never like to see those knight fianchettos anymore. Although c4 is a pretty good square at some point. All right.
And how's Azarav Lenderman going as we take a look at more games from our tri-state battle?
Whoa.
Hello, Rickard 207.
An interesting F file getting ready to be contested here.
Yeah, Lenderman's got his coffee, baby. Remember,
So,
he had a pretty bad start, but
yeah. But he's feeling it now. He beat Ponomarev, so that's enough to make it a good day. If I lost like 10 games on a day but beat Ponomarev, it would be a good day for me.
Rook
All
F2,
right.
Rook and F1 coming. But is this that big of a deal? Because Azarav is just replying with Rook F7, Rook F8.
Yeah, they all come to the F file, but are they all just going to trade? That would be a boring reunion.
Yeah, but I don't see an obvious way for White to kind of like make use of the space advantage here, David.
Mm-hmm.
So not sure who's better here and why. I mean, I wish I could like improve my knight on D2 somehow, but I don't see a clear way to do that.
Yeah.
It just feels like Black's position is pretty solid somehow.
Neither player can really concede the F file, so they have to put all their rooks there quickly. Nobody's yet in position to like outpost on F4 or F5. So
Meanwhile, speaking of solid, don't go to
looks like
Miranda
trades.
versus Savion because it's just trade fest.
Ugh.
I don't
Yeah.
think we're going to see too many fireworks there.
No.
But do go to Foyser versus Grant and Jew. By the way, I don't think we've seen a game yet by Sabina Foyser today, as we
have
somehow
not.
missed her. Former women's U.S. champion in 2017.
Right.
Really nice person. playing against Grant Zhu here on the Sopranos
Knight to
for the
c3
Sopranos.
played, and there are a couple minor pieces hanging here.
That's right. So what happens if? So the thing is, if we play Rook C1 here, then you can play Knight E2 check. So we
Okay.
don't have the pin and win it option.
No,
If we play
no.
Knight takes C3, you don't play Rook takes C3, allowing Rook B8, but instead you'll play Bishop takes D6 and have an extra pawn plus the better minor piece. So this looks very problematic for Sabina.
I mean, this knight just came to c3, right? We just had a series of trades on b1 followed by knight c3.
So this did happen with knight takes c3, bishop takes d6, and now knight e4
Yeah.
played by Sabina, bishop b4. I was gonna say like is there any way to try to like corner the a pawn or simplify?
That looks like a very smart move to me, because he can't keep the white knight from getting active, but he can keep the white rook from getting active. And the knight by itself can't devastate. So Sabina has to open another file somewhere.
But now after this d5 move, what is Grant going to do? Is he just going to play something like king e7? Because I think taking on d5 and allowing knight takes d5, harassing the bishop, that's a bit of an annoying tempo, although maybe you can just play bishop d2 at the end. It just seems like I'm running out of squares for my bishop on the key diagonal to protect a5.
Yeah.
So I'm not totally sure. Not sure it matters. Well, he did take on d5.
Did take.
And now after knight d5, bishop d2 does contain the option of playing something like rook c1 check, trading off rooks.
He might also play rook c4 after knight d5. I wonder if that's a candidate too.
Oh yeah, because the pawn on h4 is hanging. Yeah, that's what he did actually. Rook c4 immediately. Probably a very good move.
Man, he plays it so fast. I mean, look at this. 7 minutes against 3. He's really in a hurry. Wait a minute. MDL just won.
Whoa!
Extremely quickly from that normal position that we were looking at before. I got to recap this game. Sorry, folks. I'm too interested in this. I got to know what happened.
Absolutely. Let's see how it went.
Bishop trade on a6. Rook to the 5th rank. I did have my eye on this for Maxime, that the rook lift to the 5th was going to look at both the e5 and the a5 pawns. So that happens. And bishop a3 looks like a slightly desperate move from Van Welly. Like, he didn't think he could just hold his stuff together. So he's going for some kind of tactic. Knight d3, dodging away. ef4, king a2. He doesn't want to allow knight takes a4 from Van Welly. So he throws this in. Has to make a trade on b4. Recapture here. Now these pawns on the queen side are in awful shape. It's really like 3 isolated pawns for black on the queen side rather than 3 connected pawns. So he wants to play c5. And white doesn't want him to. Collects the d pawn. Oh, and he wins with rook d7 because of rook d7, a takes b5. So he wins a whole piece. But
nice move.
If Van Welly hadn't gotten into this whole rook b5 stuff, I mean, if he just plays like knight c5, rook c5, this rook endgame looks hopeless. I mean, he's already down 1, and he's going to lose a second one of these at some point.
Well, going back to the games in progress, Jurarbeck has an interesting imbalance against Sturt as we see a queen versus 2 rooks.
Yeah.
But will it end up being pretty balanced? Good chances, I'd say, as we've already seen a couple of checks here. In other exciting games, we've got the top board for the Raptors against Adria Cyan, and I still think that game is pretty... That game's still pretty balanced, I think.
Let's see. Bishop pair, and black's pieces are in decent shape. Yeah, if anything, I would think that it's like white who's pushing a little bit, because there are some scenarios where the bishop pair could eventually become a small advantage. And the black knight hasn't yet found like some amazing outposts. So
Oh, I see a cool idea in a game between Fressinet and Spielman. Let's go there.
Oh yeah, let's see that, because that is whichever match Amsterdam is playing is probably the most important right now. So
look at this possibility of the move rook g4. Does it work though? No, because you have rook takes g1. I was trying to set up with a mate because I thought the bishop was on e1. If there was a bishop on rook g4, pawn g4, pawn g4.
Right.
But you're take on G1.
I mean, if that's just one control of the first rank, it could be worth considering. But unfortunately, at the end, white can trade on c5, which breaks up our structure. So he can't
Yeah,
quite do that
exactly.
right now.
And
So
that's not what we
b4
want.
played
Not at all.
by Spellman. He is, I mean, his king's in this weird position, but he's basically just looking to crack that structure and sort of equalize against the strong c5 pawn. So what should black play? Just bishop b6? Just bring the bishop out over there, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe bishop b6. That looks like a nice move.
Given that mate is basically just a dream, I would also have liked to checkmate here.
I know. It's fun to look for mating nets, right? Even if they're completely unrealistic. But look at this. Instead, Fressinet played c4. Pawn to
What?
c4.
That pawn looks like dead.
I know. That's why it's a surprising move, isn't it?
Man.
So what are you expecting here for white?
What's Fressinet
Bishop
up
d2?
to? Well, maybe there's just no good place to move the bishop. Maybe that's what's going on. Let's see if that's what it's all about.
Bishop d2, perhaps?
Bishop d2, then what? Rook g2. Something happened. b5 was played by white. Wow. So he wants to play bishop b4? I guess he wants a better square for that bishop. Yeah, Hammer wants to play rook g4 too, but it allows rook takes g1, so it's not.
Yeah.
It's not the fun that it suggests it might offer.
I think he noticed that and probably wanted to play it anyway.
So the bishop just comes to b6, and now Spellman goes to b4 like he wants to. He wants to get into d6 and take c4 and then e5 and f4 and everything all down the row. So,
well, Lenderman's game against Azarov has gotten interesting, by the way.
I still don't see the justification for Fressinet's c4 at all. Do you? No, not really.
No, I'm confused by it, but let's take a look at the game between Lenderman and Azarov. Like I said, it did get a little bit more interesting the last time I saw it.
Oh, not all the rooks got traded, so there's still some wood to throw.
And actually, it's white's position that looks real passive here.
Well, with black controlling f1, it's hard for white to challenge this attack, right?
And you can't take on b5 that easily because you're going to have to start reckoning with the knight coming to c3.
And a rook e2 to f2 maneuver doesn't work because of queen d1. I learned that one from Ju Jinner in her brilliant win against Andrew Tang.
And I'm not sure exactly what the follow-up is, though. Like, suppose after h5 there is queen takes b5. What do we play? We have so many possibilities. h4 might be the simplest.
Yeah. I mean, this is really getting to checkmate pretty soon if the queen can break through g3. So h4 would be the first move I would look at as well. And then I'm sure queen a4, pawn takes g3 loses. Looking. So then it would be queen e2.
But this did happen. h5, queen b5, knight c3, queen d3, h4. So he switched up the move order.
Yeah, that's to stop white from trading queens on e2. He'd rather sack the knight than let white get the queen to e2, like in that other line, which would have petered out to a draw. So now he plays h4.
h4, and now h4 with the same idea. The queen c3 takes g3, and you're defenseless. And what about bishop? Okay, bishop takes g5. Okay, I was thinking maybe he was going to play the bishop f2, but then knight d1 probably would have been devastating.
Bishop takes g5 is quite a blow from Lenderman. What can you do about that?
The idea is that after queen g5, queen c3, and you're defending g3 laterally because you got rid of the bishop.
Yeah, and on hg3, you can even take with the queen, forcing a queen trade.
And what if I take on g3 immediately?
Then queen takes g3, presumably. Oh, he just did something. He took on g3.
And then
queen
knight e2 check.
And then knight e2 check.
That's what I was wondering about, with how these discoveries look after knight takes e2, queen takes e2. Are there any good discoveries at the end of the line?
I don't know.
Well, there's...
If queen h3 is another move, he's got queen f2 and then queen e1 check, forcing the king up. Then rook f2 check, king to g3.
Or just...
and something.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah,
going on there.
exactly. Exactly. Then we can just take on D2 with check or something, right?
Lenderman's time ticking down, ticking down. So I think Queen H3 loses. Oh wait, yeah, I think Queen H3 loses to Queen F2 to E1. So he's looking
I
for
mean, this looks like a
discoveries.
brilliant. This looks like a brilliant line for black.
There's a
He's
discovery.
allowing he's allowing all these checks, but do any of them actually work?
He's covering F2. So now I think you might need to save the bishop. But black is sort of up in exchange if they
You mean you can
keep
play
the
bishop
bishop.
G4 here
That's the hope.
or queen G4?
I was thinking Queen G4 because I thought Bishop G4 H3 would be a problem.
Yeah, me too.
So
But
I was surprised by the Bishop one.
queen D1 check. Okay, does he have an idea here, or did he just miss something?
I mean, maybe he still has a draw with the Queen checks.
Yeah, but I thought he was better.
Yeah,
Right?
I
Like
agree.
queen G4.
I agree. I don't know how easy Queen G4 would have been, but it looked like what he was going to go for.
Well, it looks like we're getting to a draw.
Looks
So
like we're getting to a draw with that one.
misplayed,
The Knights are ahead of the Mosquitoes right now in points.
and
But has to do with how many games are being played. What's going on in this endgame of Fressines here? Pop
yeah,
back to
let's
that
take a
for
look
a
at
second.
that.
That C pawn is still alive, defying all expectations. The C pawn is still alive.
Right, the C pawn. Somehow that move C4 earlier has turned out, and now we have this crazy endgame with both players having like only 30 seconds left on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Rook H3 check, King G4 played. And now we always have to now you always have to reckon with the move F3 as well. King F5, looking to try to checkmate. Trying to get the king into the game to give checkmate.
Yeah.
We could use it like a rook lift or something. Okay, bishop D4, bishop takes D4, rook
Into the
takes
rook
D4.
ending. But white's got just an army of more pawns.
Too many pawns. There's rook D2, but we can just simply go play rook D3 and rook C3 now.
Yep, yeah, from C3,
Yeah,
that's winning.
Okay,
Go
so
the D
white's going to win this
pawns.
game.
Well, that's big for the Mosquitoes.
Huge.
Wow.
And wait. What do we have left then?
They were needing that point.
We've got Grant.
We've got Grant still playing
against, Sabina, but that game's
and
going to
still
go.
winning. So that's going to be
Sabina's
another
going
point for the
down.
Marshals. Here come the Marshals. Oh my lord.
And what about Francisco Vallejo Pons versus the Armenian Eagles? Let's take a look at that game against Avon.
The Eagles need some points to keep up with what the Mosquitoes and the Marshals are scoring here.
Looks like an even end game with black.
Still equal
White
material,
having the two bishops, black having the passed pawn.
Yeah.
Is there anything here for either side, David?
I have no idea. Okay, so this move looks to lock the board up more. If the white king has to back off. But he took. King D3, and the bishop's defending two things. So this is going to win something for pawns,
good
right?
Point. Bishop A5, right.
So you got a little something there. He could play bishop D2, but that's not really desirable. So he found something better.
Looks better.
Very good, very good. Bishop D2 was undesirable. This, on the other hand, was quite good. All right.
But this knight's coming around to D3 to try to get some counterplay.
It's spinning around. It's come in contact with the F pawn.
But there's bishop C2 also that could be played, but knight takes F4 seems fine.
Yeah. Maybe F5 and then bishop?
Bishop C2 was played. allowing knight takes F4. And what's the idea here? He's just going to try to play bishop
H6. So, he just takes off the last pawns. Well defended by Andreassian.
Yeah, that game easily could have gone down.
I think it's fair to say that he was under some pressure that game. A little bit. Maybe it was always okay, but he was under a little bit of pressure. And he seems to have handled it. Do you want to see a 2-bishop versus 1-bishop endgame? Do we have any choice? No, we have no choice.
But let me take a look at the standings.
Sure.
Amsterdam Mosquitoes with 14.5 points. Marshalls with 14 points.
So they're still just
like those two are going to take the top two, barring something, well, actually Armenia is only 1 point behind the Marshals, I should say, because this game's going to be a draw. So it's going to be 13 points for the Eagles and 14 points for the Marshals. But
If I'm
still,
keeping track of things correctly, that means the Mosquitoes scored 2.5 out of 4 against the Migraines. So that's really good. I mean, we saw MDL win that great game on board 1, but the other boards for the Mosquitoes scored 2.5 out of 3. And the Marshals won their match with 2.5 out of 4. No, sorry. The Marshals won their match with 3 out of 4 to gain half a point on them in the standings.
so in order for the Eagles to top the Marshals, they're going to have to get 3 points in this final round. They're going to have to go 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
Tall order, but they're going to try to do it because they're not at that much of a risk, right?
If they score 2.5, they tie with them. If they score 2.5, they would tie with the Marshals. I mean, in theory, they could still be aiming for the Mosquitoes. It's like amazing that the Mosquitoes go 4-0 in the first round and then just hold it together every round. In a lot of other battle royales I've seen, there are rounds where you go 4-0, 0-4, like, or at least some ups and downs, 3 points, 1 point. Like the Mosquitoes, I don't think they've lost a single match. They've drawn something like 4 out of 6 matches, I think. Maybe I've missed something, but
no, this has been an incredible battle royale. We have only 1 round left, guys. So if you're tuning in now, this is it's actually okay timing. You missed a lot, but it's good timing in that you're going to see the climax.
You will see the climax here
of this battle for the big 24-point bonus between the Mosquitoes and the Marshals, with the Eagles as an outside chance if they score a big enough score in the last round of getting in there as well. All right. Any day now, we're going to get this started. Last round. This has been really fun, David.
Yep.
And what time are you streaming tonight for?
Oh, for anyone who wants to watch the second Battle Royale tonight, the games are supposed to start at 7:30, and the broadcast will probably start 5 or 10 minutes before that on Chesscom's Twitch, and mine will be the same. We'll be on 5 or 10 minutes before the round starts.
7:30 PT?
7:30 Pacific time, yeah. So in 8 hours and 22 minutes.
That's right. And of course, Alexandra and Robert Hess are going to be streaming on twitch.com/chess, as well as Grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura. So going to be a real incredible day for chess as we see all these players, Fabi, Nakamura, Wesley, getting in there.
And that one also has Dingley Ren, so it's got another 2,800 in the mix as well tonight.
Wow, I'm going to be watching.
Yeah.
I'll have to take a look at that.
Do you ever stream poker, Jen?
Well, I actually live in PA, and we don't have online poker with PokerStars quite yet.
Oh.
But they announced there's a good chance that is coming. So at that point, I probably will.
If they have it, you'll do it.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I can't wait for there to be online poker in Pennsylvania with PokerStars. They're regulating it state by state, so it's going a little bit slow. But New Jersey and Vegas are in there, and PA is supposed to be next in line.
Okay. And do you root for the Pittsburgh Pawn Grabbers because they're in Pennsylvania, or are you or do you have a rivalry between Philly and Pittsburgh? Or
No. I like a lot of the players. I'm a big fan of Awander, of Jennifer Yu.
Okay.
But what you got to understand about Philadelphia, we're way closer
to New Jersey
and New York than we are to Pittsburgh.
Right.
So I actually I feel like I know more of the players and the teams from the New York and the Sopranos. Okay. So I'm a fan of a lot of the Pittsburgh Pawn Grubbers, but Pittsburgh and Philly, there's not that much connection because Pittsburgh's 6 hours away.
Yeah.
So same state, but very far, very far. So close, but so far.
So you know more players on those New Jersey, New York teams.
Yeah, and speaking of poker, of course, The Sopranos has Dan Smith, who's an elite poker player, and Sean Finn is a manager who I know well. So yeah, there's a lot of people I know on The Sopranos. New Jersey is literally 5 minutes away from Philly. It's kind of funny. New Jersey is you can get to Camden in 10 minutes depending on where you are in Philly, and Pittsburgh is 6 hours away. So these states are misleading.
Yeah.
And here we have the final game of this battle royale started. You might have missed the Volga Stormbringers last round. They actually had gotten the bye last round. This round, it is the Barcelona Raptors. So their tournament's over,
Yeah.
David. The
Yeah.
Barcelona Raptors are not going to get any more points than they have.
Yeah.
Have they been added to the scoreboard yet?
I don't think
I
they've
don't think
gotten
so.
their
I
two
think they still need
points
that
yet.
those 2 points, but yeah.
So it's not yet clear, depending on how the Sopranos and Stormbringers do. They could get past, or their 2 points could allow them to pass the Migraines or somebody. So we actually, even though they're not playing, we don't know quite where they're going to finish. All right, we've got a King's Indian attack from Frolyanov against Spelman. And got a Queen's Indian double fianchetto thingy here between Van Welly and Andraken.
And by the way, the Raptors, the points were added, so the Raptors now have 13 points.
Now
but
13. All right, so that's the mark that the other teams have to try and pass.
Right, which could be challenging for the Sopranos. They need to get 3 points to pass that. But for most of the other teams, it's not going to be too hard, particularly the New York Marshalls and the Mosquitoes, David.
Yeah.
And for those looking at the Eagles, GMC Place is pretty upset that the Eagles are in 4th place right now. But don't worry, Sleepless. As long as they get half a point, they will leapfrog over the Raptors. So let's see. I guess we should keep close eye on all of the matches, really, but
but especially the Amsterdam match and then Marshalls versus Eagles, because it's going to be one of those 3 teams that gets first place. And Andraken and Van Welly have transformed it into another Benoni, so hooray, or Benoni / Benko, since that B pawn's just chilling on B5. Azarov and Tersahakian have a pretty solid
dry
Petrov kind of position.
Although you never know how it's going to change. But right now, it's not the most thrilling of the games.
Right. There's still ways for White to try and generate an initiative in this position. So we'll see what Azarov comes up with. But
I have high hopes for the Jurabek Gabrielian game. I feel like that one's going to be exciting. Very rich position in this Caro-Kann.
Yeah, with a slightly unusual knight on D3.
Yeah. I mean, I'm feeling it for White. I do like White's position. Looks like after castles, we got a little bit more development than we usually have, right? You still need to develop all your kingside and then castle. And I like the idea of potentially getting a knight to h5. I guess you're going to start with a solid knight f6 and see if there's anything I can do with my 3 tempi to punish you.
Right.
I mean, like, I'm even thinking about just, bum rushing with f4, f5, just because I have so many tempi. But I guess because of that, Jurabek played queen c7. He's thinking maybe about castling the other way, because maybe he just thought castling kingside was too many tempos.
But I think that time is worth even more in opposite side castling. So actually, like, to me, it's even more dangerous to castle queenside if the other person has extra time, because they could just play like a4, b4, b5 and sort of control the tempo of the game in a different way than when you castle kingside.
Indeed, and Arthur Gabrielin played bishop to f4, but now after bishop d6, I feel like this could be actually advantageous for the Marshall, because after bishop takes d6, queen d6, you're trading some pieces off, and maybe that'll make it a little bit easier for you to consolidate.
Right.
But is there a specific idea here, like maybe something with knight e4 and queen g4?
Right, I was wondering the same.
These tempi.
Yeah, does he have something with queen g4, or does this just not work, basically? Or does he play rook e1 and threaten knight f5?
It's very sizzle or fizzle moment, David. It's like we need to get something going, or it might be nothing.
And are you rooting for a sizzle or a fizzle?
Well, I'm always rooting for a sizzle. I mean, regardless of who's playing who.
That would be great to have a commentator one day who was just like, "Yes, trade the pieces. Yes, it's a draw. It's a draw." just like, "Oh no, don't sack that piece. Don't sack that piece. Oh, this is too interesting."
Apparently, Gesberger says I make up too many plural tempo, plural forms of tempo.
You use so many different ones. I was afraid to say it. I was like, either I'll get it wrong, or like it'll be like pointing out that one of the times Jen said it, she probably said it wrong because it couldn't all be right. So I don't know.
All right.
I'll just talk
Whatever
about
sounds
time.
the coolest. Tempe. Tempini.
Tempinis. we got another one.
All right, do I have time? Okay, so knight e4, queen c7 on the board. I was mentioning queen g4, f5, queen g7 looks good for me.
Mm-hmm.
So after queen g4,
I'm just clicking around the match real quick to see a few other positions.
yeah, go ahead. Queen g4 was played, by the way.
So we've got another Caro-Kann between Grant Shu and Anna Sargsyan. And Grant Shu plays the Caro-Kann as white himself as well. I mean, as black himself as well. But here he is on the white side of it. A very classic version. Not as different as the Gabrielian one. Azarov hasn't done anything yet. Oh, wait. As I say, he hasn't done anything yet. He threatens mate in 1. So.
Oh.
Props to him on that. I think he could threaten mate in 1 again on his next move. So.
With queen. Yeah. Wait, how to threaten mate in 1?
Well, he was threatening queen h7 checkmate before black played g6.
Right, so queen h3.
So now he could go queen h3. That's what you're supposed to do, is try and like get some kind of little weakness out of the opponent before they can cover it. The bishop on e7 means there's no knight f6 or knight f8.
So you might be forced to play the undesirable looking h5.
Right. Again, to play
and
h5.
Then the question is whether we can play queen f3 and just continue the circle.
Right.
Because you can't allow me to get on f7.
Right. And on the rook, you just trade the rook and then it's all over.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, that got more interesting than the stereotype
Wait,
of the
did I say that
Petrov.
was not going to be interesting? Oops.
No, you didn't say that. We just didn't know yet. We just didn't know.
Yeah. Wait, but this looks so after g6, queen h3, what does black do?
I don't know. He's been thinking about it for a while, but I have no idea what black does.
After queen h3, it looks devastating.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I don't see a thing after, but he's played queen f3. But I have to say, David, that looks pretty good too. Very similar.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe he was deciding between the two.
Presumably, he was looking at both, and he was like, looking at
really good.
Looking at everything like knight e5 or whatever as resources for black.
So even at the strong grandmaster level, f7 is a really weak point that you just got to defend. And
F7 is weak no matter your rating. It's just like if your rating's good, you should know how to defend it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to say. You said it more eloquently. Thank you, David. I'm trying to say just because you're a grandmaster doesn't mean that you can't get checkmated and embarrassed on f7.
And just because you're a grandmaster doesn't mean that bishop h2 isn't a spite check. In the old days, computers would play like bishop h2 to delay checkmate by one move.
Well, there is queen f4. What's happening there?
Oh yeah.
We said queen d5.
Yeah.
Things look good, but g3.
Our big Eagles fan is getting sad because this game is turning into a clocking brilliancy for white.
So is g3 the easiest there, David? Just winning a piece.
If queen to f4 is g3 easier than playing queen d5, which seems to win as well. Let's see. G3, wow. Yes, G3 looks the easiest. Definitely. That's a solid one. On bishop f4, what would be the next move for white, though? Queen d5?
Okay, that's got to be the move then. That's the one that's going to be played. Because I guess we have to play queen d5.
Something was just played, and it was bishop f4.
Bishop f4, right, yeah.
So, queen d5, there will be bishop takes g5, potentially. I mean, white can certainly play that position.
Yeah.
I can't shake the feeling that queen h3 would have been better than f3 because it would have just been...
I know, because after this bishop h2, bishop f4, for sure, it looks a little bit less exciting.
Yeah.
Well, how does knight f7? I don't know if that really makes... No, I don't like that.
Knight f7's losing, in fact. After king f7, g3, rook e7, it's all just, exactly. Why did we do this to ourselves?
No, so he did play queen takes d5, and it does... It look nice for white, but not as nice as we would like it to, right?
No, not at all. I mean, it's still, in a sense, it looks great because that knight is so unsettled and the dark squares are weak. It looks like white's got plenty of chances, but we were looking at checkmates, so nothing really looks good compared to checkmate.
Yeah. Maybe after Queen H3, the difference was that your position was more weakened because of the H5 pawn, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have preferred that for sure. Um, and on Queen H3, H5, would Queen F3 have allowed the same thing on H2 and
That's
F4?
what
I
I'm
guess
saying.
so,
That's what I'm
right?
saying. So maybe it wasn't quite as clear as we thought because we didn't see the bishop H2, bishop F4 idea.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it would have turned out pretty similar to the game, actually.
Well, I think there is some differences. Like maybe we'd have some ideas with knight F7 here that we didn't have before. But
Hmm.
anyway, for
Yeah.
another time to look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that some people in the chat were talking about that knight F7 stuff as well. And so
Right.
maybe Queen H3 was a little better, but let's move
Yeah.
on as this game seems like it's nice for white, but not the
Yeah.
massacre that we were predicting before we saw this defense.
Yeah. So I just want to see something for a second over here. I want to see, like, really quick what some of the individual top scoring boards are. Now, this will be a little bit of a mess for everybody watching for 1 second, but Anna Sargsyan and Grant Shu are the top scoring board fours with 4.5. Jurabek is the top scoring board three with 4.5. Wait, I'm like winning Greg's $20,000.
Oh my God. Yeah, he
Um,
said that he's giving away 20K
oh
instead of
no,
just saying,
Fressinet has 2.5. He's the only one who let me down.
oh wow,
And
there you
Bashkela
go.
Grav has 4.5, so I've got one person wrong. Oh, killing me, Greg. So it's Ter Sahakian who's the top board two so far. So it makes sense we
How's
can
it
watch
feel to
his
lose
game
20K?
and we can watch Van Welly. How did it
How does
feel
it
to
feel
just?
to lose
Uh,
$20,000?
I don't get my hopes up until we're a little bit further into the event.
I don't even know what's the closest anyone's got. I mean, Greg can let me know that, but
Yeah, probably
has he ever
something like
actually
11 out
sweated
of
it at
16.
all?
Probably something like 11 out of 16 picks.
Well, this
Um.
is a kind of exciting game between Sturt and Marisa Bag. I want to draw your attention to it
Okay.
because it looks like White is just
Whoa. Yeah.
down two pieces,
Mm-hmm.
but it's actually not that easy for Black to defend, is it? Because
No.
Rook G1 is coming. So is there like some simple way
I mean, we
to
could bail
consolidate
out with
here?
Queen H5 and give
Yeah,
back
it's
one
Queen
piece.
H5.
Um.
But now at least White has some compensation, right? We have what,
Yeah.
three pawns?
Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
wonder if there was like a different way, or maybe if she found the best. But
Yeah.
anyway, Rook
Oh,
H7
if
was
she
her
gets all her
idea.
pieces active, this might have been a good option, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, D5 is hanging at the end of the variation, but does it matter if you're taking B2 and A2?
Right.
It might not matter.
Yeah. That
And
might
this
have
would
been
be a
really
nice
nicely
win if
done.
Marisa Bag were able to get this done. Although not
Yeah.
not the standings that are of most relevant, but it will keep Marseille at least ahead of, God, I don't know. I
Oh,
mean,
and she even had time to defend
Marseille has to have
D5.
a huge score in order to pass anyone that they were, except Barcelona, which they're going to pass, obviously, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So they
Um.
really need a big score in this match.
They do.
And
So Van
they're off
Welly
to a
so
good
far
start.
has got a very good score, and he just got a pawn to B7. Van Welly, when I was checking the scores, it looked like he had 4 out of 6 on board one. That's quite a nice score. And it looks like he just beat Andreykin.
Whoa, nice job. Froyanev versus Spielman looks really interesting too, David.
Wow,
The
just
mosquitoes.
this is like
Spielman.
this is like the Banco gone wrong. The B pawn just walks up the board. All right,
Ooh,
Spielman,
baby.
I
Yeah, no,
see it.
actually, Spielman looks like he's in trouble, David. I mean, this
Yeah,
attack looks devastating. I
yeah,
think he's actually
fair
going to
enough.
resign.
This match
It's
is
done.
wrapping up. I feel like every time that
Froyanov won.
I feel like that every time Spellman's had a great game was like the 1 or 2 rounds that something bad happened to Van Welly, and then every time that Spellman loses, Van Welly wins. Like,
Now, this is particularly painful because the Stormbringers were doing so badly
yeah,
that it doesn't even do that much for them. Okay, maybe they're going to be able to pass the Sopranos. It's possible. We have to see how the rest of the round shakes out.
yeah,
But one thing for sure is it's going to damage Mosquito's chances for first.
definitely. Let's see how they're doing on the other boards. Um, let's go down their boards a little bit. We've got Froelich, who I had up on the board a little bit earlier, who's got a weird sort of structure with this overprotected double pawn on C5. This is that new London opening theory, this kind of stuff, where white takes on c5 early on and then tries to make it annoying for black to recover. Is that queen kind of trapped on c3?
And there's an endgame in the other game with the mosquitoes, which actually looks like it might be promising for
The
black.
Ivlev game. Let's see. Knight c4 just played, kind of forcing matters, and black wins. Well, yeah, that's pretty clear. It's already over, I think.
Because, well, what are you thinking? Just king e4?
Yeah.
And then you're just going to run out of tempo at some point.
Yeah.
You're going to run out of tempos, tempi, all the different words for tempo
Tempinis,
you're going to run out of.
Tempuzos, they're all going to be used up. So now f5, and if f4, king e4, and if g4, you trade and then play g5.
Yeah, unfortunate.
And that's the last temp.
And I'm trying to think of babushka. Tempuka.
Tempushka? I've lost all my tempushkas.
Tempuchkas. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
But this is a nice win for Leonard Deck, and that's going to be really tough for the teams trying to chase them.
Oh, that's bad news for the chasers, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
because the Mosquitoes did lose that one game, but they've won 2 games, and the other
found
the
one
other
more
battle,
tempo with a4. Why couldn't black just take on a4? That is so weird that black doesn't take on a4. I do not, because that gives white another free tempo with a5.
Luckily, it doesn't matter because he's just getting into e4.
Luckily, it doesn't matter. But what was wrong with taking a pawn on a4?
Hey, you didn't want to calculate anything.
You didn't want to calculate anything. That's a capture. I don't look at captures.
Okay, but let's look at the other game with the Mosquitoes, because actually there's not a lot of time left on that clock.
Back
2.5 minutes.
Back to Froelich. I mean, basically, if Froelich wins this as white, then it sort of doesn't matter what the Marshals and Eagles are doing, does it? I mean,
exactly.
They're scoring so many points for the Mosquitoes here. They've already got 2 out of 3 with 1 game still to go.
Well, material is equal, and it looks like we should be able to try to trap that queen, but there's no way to get another piece into it.
How did the knight end up on c4? What was this thing? Queen. The queen was what moved from c4. Okay. So black's trying to play like e5. White's trying to trap this queen with like a queen move and knight to d1.
Although knight d1 opens up the c4 square
I'll never
again.
be able to trap this queen, yeah, with b4 and c4.
There's too many squares open. Yeah, this position looks so random and like hard to coordinate. By the way, we've got plenty of grandmasters over in the chess.com chat as well, I see.
Okay.
Patempo is another one. Queen e2 played. I was thinking about this, maybe rook d1 to d3.
Okay, that could get the job done. Black's presumably going to like attack something here. Yep. Fair prediction. You're not going to sit around and let the queen fight all by herself. He's got to come up with something. I thought it would be e5, but it's knight h5.
But similar, like in both cases, we're playing against that dark squared bishop, thinking that like if we can take that dark squared bishop out, then suddenly the aggressive options for black start going up and up.
Why isn't black playing bishop takes c5?
I don't know. I think he's trying to get e5 in. I think you're right about that. And he's just playing knight f4 first, and then he wants to play e5 next.
Yeah.
So that the bishop can't scurry back to e1.
Well, I'm just thinking this pawn on c5 is kind of hanging too, right? Like, I'm not
maybe
even
he
sure
was
why
just worried about bishop g3 to e1, so he wants to stop that. I get that. I think that makes some sense.
Knight e1 wasn't quite a threat because black had queen b4, which then also hits the bishop on a4 to the person asking about it. Yeah, we were wondering about these lines. They're a little bit weird and messy. And these players have 48 seconds each because they've only played the opening phase. Other people still have like a minute and a half left on their clocks because they've played some moves. How's Azarov doing against Tersahakian?
And as we've been talking, it became a bullet game, basically.
He has not been able to make use of that black king position. Wow. Not at all. Black is up a pawn.
Down a minute.
Found the
That
time
could
to grab the
prove to
pawn
be.
on c3.
It
But
could prove to be costly. Right now, the d4 pawn taboo because of queen takes d5,
yeah,
and the
b6.
knight was pretty well.
It's a good move. I like it. Trade off white's last
D6.
pawn on the queen side.
Yeah, I
Just
like it
just
too. Good
narrow the
idea.
board a
Although
little bit more with your knight. Make things a little simpler.
he's going to try to get active with rook a1 potentially.
Oh, and it looks like, yeah, Grant Shu and Sargsyan must have finished their game.
Zhu won. Grant Zhu
Which
won.
was the battle between the two people tied for first place on board 4. So that means Grant Shu is the top board 4 today after winning that one.
And Vrolyek, if you want to go back to that game, is 30 seconds to 15
Yeah.
seconds. With a pawn on d6, is it strength or a weakness?
The
That's
Azarov
the
game just
question.
ended in a draw. They repeated. Pawn came to d6. These guys are just blitzing now. 15 seconds. Whew.
Queen c6 is the idea, but do we have time to protect that pawn? He's playing queen d2, so then now after queen c6, there's queen b4. That's the idea. You can't
Yeah.
take. You could take on c2, but it looks very
Take
dangerous.
on c2, but instead bring out all the pieces while that rook is still on b1.
That's right. And look at this. Now white's getting passive.
Yeah. And black's looking
Rook
to
d6.
clean up the d6 pawn. He could have grabbed c2, but he prefers to clean up the one that looks scarier. And then
now a tough defense on tap for white.
now a tough defense for Froelich, and that's what
what
the
about knight
Marshals and
b4?
the Eagles wanted to see. The Marshals now 15.5 to 15.5 dead heat with the Mosquitoes here.
This is the last game that the Mosquitoes can get any points. But
All right,
will
the
they?
Mosquitoes need him to salvage at least a half point here. Get us at least a half point, man. What's
Oh,
Miranda
yes.
doing? We've
What
got
could it
Real
be?
Boy and Miranda playing. Does that mean that?
Oh, I think that I misspoke. There is another game with the Mosquitoes going on.
Oh,
Leonard
yeah.
because we had already counted that.
We
as a win,
counted the
but
point
never-
for them, but his opponent
But it-
hadn't resigned yet. So they've
Yes,
got a
yes,
point coming
okay.
in.
Okay. Yeah, so they
We've
will
got-
have 16.5.
An interesting game between Andreassian and Miranda. Can Miranda win the bishop on e1 here? Can he win the bishop on e1? It sure looks like it. That could be a huge point for the Marshals. Wait, another game
boy.
just disappeared off the list of games to be played. Miranda
And
wins
Gia
by
Miranda won
resignation.
by resignation.
Collects the bishop.
So that's 16.5 points for the
Ryavkin and
Marshals.
Froelich. It's the only game I see still going. What I don't know what happened in Jurabek's game, but
Vrolyek is the only game still going, and
Yeah.
if he draws this, they will pass the Mosquitoes.
yeah, but we
So this
don't know
is-
if every game that just finished has been put in. Okay, Jurabek lost, so this is the last game. It looks like a lot of losing chances for Froelich, but he got the a pawn off the board actually, so it's not so dire.
But apparently the Vrolyek.
Oh, made him one. Oh, he's in check. Can he?
Apparently earlier he did miss the maiden one. I heard people screaming about that in the chat.
Oh my god. It feels like okay. He stopped that. I think Rook F2 was a really good move there. Oh, falls for this one instead. Oh my god. All right, he's up one pawn, but Froelich is putting up a defense. Putting up the defense.
Yeah. Is he going to be able to do it? Not a lot left on the board, so he should
Not a
be
lot
able to
left,
get this done.
but knight endings are tricky, and rook pawns, the one place they're good is in knight endings. And if he trades into the king and pawn ending, here, there, H.
And he did. He offered it.
He didn't. It would have been winning for black, I think. What? I think it was winning for black.
He didn't have time to calculate it, so he just went for this.
Yeah, but this is drawn now. Oh my goodness.
Knight takes e6. There you go.
Unless this piece can't get back into the game. Wait, where's he going? Oh yeah, white just needs to get his
Knight
king
E8 back.
to h1. It doesn't matter where his knight is, and there it is. And that is going to be the half point that the Mosquitoes needed. Froelich in a losing position. Lots of possibilities for Bryakin, and he hangs in there, trades the pawns off one at a time, and wins the The Battle
That was well
Royale
deserved in the final
for the
game of the round.
Mosquitoes.
What a
Oh my
performance
goodness.
by the Amsterdam Mosquitoes, and what a
Wow.
nice job by the New York Marshals as well. This you can tell how tight this division was because 17 points, so impressive, but not that huge of a score to get first, and that's because everybody did so well.
Yeah, 17 is not a very big score for
Do you
first
want to scroll
place.
back to the missed mate? People want to see the checkmate that was missed.
Okay.
I'm not sure what move number it was. Can somebody tell me what move
No,
number?
it would
Because it
have
was like,
probably been a while ago, but let's see.
yeah. So you
Was it
said there was a rook
before or after
b8
this?
checkmate missed? Huh? A rook b8 check.
I don't see why rook b8 would have ever been.
Because the rook was never on b8, so I'm a little confused. Oh, I see. Yeah, there was. They played rook b1, knight c4, king e2. Maybe he got confused because it was a check on c4.
What move is it,
I
Jen?
think the guy might have been. Wasn't it right there, rook d2? They said. Anyway, I'm not sure. If somebody gives us a move number, we can look at it.
Yeah,
But
without a move number, it's a
yeah.
square doesn't tell us anything because the rook could have moved to d2 on like 20 different moves.
But what a great battle royale, guys! Thanks everybody for watching, and I hope that you all watch tonight. David's going to be streaming. Alexandra Botez and Grandmaster Robert Hess are going to be streaming on this channel, and of course, Hikaru is going to be in the action. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm certainly going to be watching before I go to sleep, as it's going to start at 10:30 here in no 9:30 here on the Central Time, and then tomorrow we start the Champions Showdown here in St. Louis. So
Yeah.
shout out to guys like Hikaru and Wesley and Fabi who are going to be playing late into the night before they play a big money match starting tomorrow.
Yeah. So, yeah, everybody, remember to root for the mechanics tonight, and look for all the 2800s we have to play against to stumble somehow.
Well, root for whoever you want to root for.
No, it should be
Seriously,
thrilling, and
though.
so many good players to watch tonight. This moment I've got up on the board here, I think, is the moment where Bryakin could have. I mean, one moment I noticed where Bryakin could have clearly won it with Rook F2, and that would have put the Marshals and Mosquitoes in a tie. The Migraines had a good final round to catch the Armenia Eagles in a tie for third and fourth place. The points will be shared between them, and the Marshals and Mosquitoes will haul in a lot of points. So there will be some pressure on Webster tonight to keep up with the Marshals, I think, right? Because they're only 1 point or so ahead of them going into the Battle Royale week. So Webster would probably need to get about second place in their Battle Royale to keep up with the Marshals, or to stay ahead of them. That said, Webster won the last Battle Royale they played in, so.
Well, thanks everybody for watching, and to all the mods and everybody who commented and everybody on chess.com. This Battle Royale has been so much fun. It's been so much fun calling it with you, David.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. It was great. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and get a good little break before your next commenting.
Well, I have a longer break
tomorrow.
than you do, David. You're commenting tonight. I'm not commenting till tomorrow. But what a golden age of chess, guys. You have so much amazing content coming up. And shout out to everybody viewing. I'll be back next week for more Pro Chess League coverage.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.